Hi, in this video series, we are going to begin a very important topic for a newcomer who wants to learn the web designing. And here, we are going to discuss about the CSS. CSS is basically a technology which is very much popular and is very indispensable for the web designing concepts. Nowadays, a lot of concepts like Bootstrap are totally based on the CSS. So here, before getting started while learning with the CSS concept, a candidate must be familiar with HTML. And after that, you must have a web browser and a text editor. Since here I am a Windows user, so I will use the text editors, which is very much free of cost, and any web browser of your choice like Chrome and Firefox. So once you have a knowledge of HTML, once you have these basic softwares like the text editor and the web browser, you are good enough to start with the CSS. So let's discuss about what the CSS is all about. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Style sheet is the thing in which we are going to work. So basically style sheet means a list of a document, means a document which is containing a list of all these styles which you want to define for a particular element on the web pages. For example, if you want to make a particular design for the heading tags, you can create a sheet of those styles. Similarly, for all the different tags, maybe the controls as well. So this style sheet will help you out in making this set of style rules. Secondly, there is something called cascading. Cascading means a flow. Whenever you will make changes on the top, it will be flown in the downwards direction. That means if you will make any changes in the style sheet, the changes will definitely be reflected in the web pages as well, the pages who are using those particular style sheets. By the time we will start explaining about the working or the functionality of CSS, we will get to know like how we can make the different sheets for different documents for the style sheet and the HTML. And when we will make some changes in the style sheet, the changes will be reflected to the HTML as well. Is used to control the style of a web document. As I said, it will contain a list of styles for the specific element, or as per your choice, like you just want to make some list of styles and on any particular element you can apply that. Like for example, if I have designed some font family, the text color or something for a specific text, I can apply this particular setting to a heading, also to the paragraph as well. Handles the look and feel of the web page. As I said, it will contain the exact layout of a particular page. So how you want your page to be look, you can make that all inside this CSS. And now let's discuss about the advantages. Since we have HTML and using HTML as well, I can customize the look and feel of my web page. For example, I have a font tag in which we have an attribute like color, the family means the font face, or some more attributes. So using that particular tag, I can customize the appearance of any text. So why should we go for CSS? So let's have an idea of that. Here we are talking about the advantage. It saves time. Saves time means you can design the set of style rules in a single document and later you can apply that in throughout your website. So every time when you are adding a new web page, you don't particularly have to define the set of styles again and again in a specific HTML tag. Page loads faster. When you add the HTML and you keep on adding the different tags like font or maybe some more with some more attributes, the HTML documents will be heavier, and by the time the HTTP protocol will take that particular text to the web browser, the more HTML will take more time to get loaded. If you will make a separate document for CSS, the amount of HTML on a particular page will be lesser and it will be faster in loading. Easy maintenance. Since all these styles have been defined in a single document, so if I want to make some changes in my website appearance, I can do that by changing a single document and all the changes will be reflected to all the web pages in my website. Superior styles to HTML. Some of the tags are actually not containing the more styles for the appearance. For example, if you take H1 tag or any heading tag doesn't have a property or attribute which can change the text color. For example, if you want to say H1 color is equal to red, that is not going to work definitely. So using these styles, you can actually make the attributes applied on a particular tags which basically doesn't have those attributes. Multiple device compatibility. That means if you're creating a web page with the CSS, that particular web page will be compatible with any system like the different operating systems as well as with the different kind of devices, maybe laptop, desktop, mobile devices. It will be applicable to all. So these are the advantages of working with the CSS. So now, using all these benefits, in the next video onwards, we will start implementing the concept of CSS practically. Hi, in this video of CSS, we'll learn how we can include the CSS along with the HTML. So far we have seen a bit, but here we will cover all the way like what are the different ways of including the CSS with the HTML. So we are going to discuss about the 4 different things. First one is the inline style sheet. Inline style sheet is something where you will write any HTML tag and right after that you will use the style attribute, and inside that you will start writing all the style rules in the CSS syntax. Embedding is something where you will write the CSS code inside the header section of the HTML document inside the style tag. So there we will write all the style rules and those will be applicable for the current HTML page only. So after that, in the body, whichever HTML tag you are putting, either you can use the name selector, ID selector, class selector, universal selector, whatever, but that will be applicable for the current page only. If you want to write a style sheet that should be applicable for all the pages of your website, then you will have to create a separate file with an extension .css, and then you will write all the style rules inside that file. Later, you are having 2 different ways of including those style rules in any HTML page. That is linking and importing. These are the 2 ways which will help us out in getting the style from a separate CSS document and where we will implement that in a current HTML page. So let's see a practical implementation of the different ways how we can link the style sheet with the HTML. So now in this particular video, we'll start working with the inline style sheet. So basically what I'll do, as here you can see there are a couple of tags, that is h1 and h2, and here is the output of these h2 and h1 tag. Now if I want to put the inline style sheet, what I'll do, like the attribute we used to pass in any of the tags so far, here I will use this style as the attribute. After that, here what I'll do, I'll just put some of the values as I was doing in the previous video where we just saw the simple example. Like here, if I want to change the color of this h1, what I'll do, I'll say color to blue. As soon as I'll do that, you can see the color of this particular text, this particular heading is turned to blue. Similarly, if I want to change the font family, again I can come to font family attribute here in this style, and I will use any of, like in the previous video we use MS. That is the same I'm going to do here as well, and here you can see the difference. So basically the way to write the attribute and the value will remain same, but the thing is we will actually pass the value in the style attribute right where I'm putting the tag. Since this one is inline, if I'll put any other h1 tag, these styles will not be applicable in that heading. Like this is a sample text. So here you can see the another heading is not getting affected with the inline because this style attribute is particularly for this h1 only, so it will not be applicable for any other h1 tag. Now if you want to put some common designs for all the h1 available on this web page, as we have done in the initial video as well, so for that what I'll do, I'm just removing this style from here and I'll come back to the head section where I'll put the style tag. Just make a good practice to pass the type attribute here where I'll put a value text /CSS, and here since I want to pass it for heading, I will use the values like color to blue, font family to MS. So now all the h1 available in this particular page will be turned to the same style set which I have used for the h1 tag, and similarly you can make it for any other tag you want. There are different selectors which I will cover in our next video, but here I'm just telling you what are the different ways of putting these style things in the web page. Alright, so here first thing was the inline style sheet, and here I'm actually embedding the style sheet inside the head section of the same HTML document. Let's put some styles for the H2 as well before proceeding. So here color is green and text decoration is underlined, so it is coming with the underline. Now these are the two ways in which you can put the things in the same HTML document. Remember, if you have passed some of these styles by embedding, and if you want to make some changes in a particular thing, again you can come to H1 tag. For example, if for this particular H1 I want underline, so what I can do, I can actually come and still can pass the inline style sheet. So here what I'll do, I'll say text decoration underline. So not the first H1 but the second H1 will be decorated with the underline like this. Similarly, if you want to change some of the attribute which is being defined initially, like for example I said like all the H1 will be having color blue and the text MS, but maybe if you want particularly this H1 should not come in MS, then you can just pass the same attribute again here, and that will override the previous one. It is like the inheritance if you are from the programming background, that this one is the parent and this one is the child specific values. So if there is nothing defined, then it will take it from the parent, otherwise it will take its own value if you want to make some changes. Like font family, here I want to put it Arial. So I'll come here and you can see this is the Arial text. So this is about the embedding and inline style sheet. But if you want, you can just cut all these style attributes from here, and I'll take another document where I'll save them all. And now let's save it in the same folder. Like currently I'm working in the CSS folder, inside which you have the demo.html, and inside this I will save it as styles.css. and here early you can find the CSS extension as well, so you can choose it from here as well. So now I have saved this CSS. Alright, so now next thing what I'll do, so let's come back to the browser, and if I'll refresh, you can see only the inline style sheet where I set font family Arial and text decoration underline is still there. Rest all the styles are gone away. So what can I do is I can actually link this style sheet into this HTML document, and for that what I'll do, I'll come to the head section again, and here I will pass the link tag. I don't want to put anything inside it, so I just close it. It will be a non-pair tag or empty tag. And now link relation. Relation is that I'm going to use a style sheet. So link relation is a style sheet. Again, you can specify type, which type of text this linked file is going to bring here. It will be the CSS, again the MIME type, and href, the most important thing, that's the hyper reference. So both are in the same folder, and inside that CSS there's a file called styles.css. So again I'm passing the relative path out here. So maybe if it's done, I should get these styles back. So let's refresh it here. So now I get all these styles which I have defined in this style. So these are the different ways using which you can actually use a style sheet inside an HTML document. So here we covered the three ways, that is the inline style sheet like this, the embedding style sheet where we put the style tag in the same HTML document, and this is the linking where I created a separate style sheet and then I pass the hyper reference here in the link tag, and here is how it is working. So this is all about the different ways of using the style sheet in HTML. Hi, in this video CSS will discuss about giving the styles to the font. Like if you want to give the font a different color, or some style rules like the font family you want to change. If you want to give some styles like make it bolder, make it italic or something, you can go for the fonts in these styles. So let's see what all different options are available while working with the fonts in CSS. So here now, with the reference of font style in CSS, I have taken a number of paragraph tags, and in each p tag you can see there are different options available for the fonts. Like in the first one, where I have used font family attribute of CSS, I have passed three different kind of fonts, that is SMS, monotype cursiva and courier. So it will give the priority to the first font, but if the first font is not installed in your system, then the second font will be applied. And again, if second font is not available in your system, then we'll go for the third font, and if none of the form is available in your system, then the default font will be shown to the user. But in this particular case, in my case, I do have the MS, at least everyone has this particular font. So the first font will be applied to this text called changed font family. And here you can see in the output, you can see this particular font is nothing but MS. Similarly, if through CSS you want to pass some styles, like you want to make any particular text as italic, you can use this CSS class font style, rather not CSS class, but the attribute. So font style is the attribute here, and the value is italic. Let's say if you want to make the text italic at the runtime in any particular event, you can't add the italic tag at that particular time. So that's why we should learn how to make a particular text italic using the CSS attribute. So font style italics, and here this is italics is the text. So you can see this is italics. Alright, so this is the font style italic which I have applied for this particular text. Similarly, we do have a variant here for the font where I'll use the attribute font variant, and the value is small caps. You can make it none, which is by default. So what it will do, all the capital letters which are available here, like this is small caps example. So T, S, C, E, the respective capital words will be shown in the capital, but all the alphabets who are available here in small cases, in small letters, will be shown in the smaller caps like this. Alright, so you can see the size of these fonts is smaller than the caps size form. Alright, so this is how you can use the small caps. Similarly, if you want to make it bold, any particular text, you can use the attribute font weight at that particular time, which will make it bold, bolder, and maybe you can put some numeric values as well, depending if your particular browser supports that font options. All right, so like here you can see font weight is bold. If you want to make some nested text even more bolder, you can put it bolder as well. Now next thing which comes here is font size. Font size is here, like you can see 30 pixels. We do have the different measurement units as we have learned. So here I am passing the unit as pixel. So the font size of this particular text will be nothing but 30 pixel, as you can see here. All right. Similarly, you can increase or decrease size as per your requirement. All right. Now it's 40. So let's make it 40. All right. Similarly, if you want to use small and large, like in HTML, we do have the small tag and the big tag. But here, if you want, you can use the font size attribute in that particular situation, and you can use the value small and large. So comparatively to the default text, if this text will be in the smaller font, and similarly comparatively to the current text, this particular text will be larger. As you can see here, this is smaller in size while this one is larger in size. This is your default font size. All right, so comparatively you can check, like this one is small and this one is large. And here I have used the shorthand notation for passing the different font styles and a single line. All right, like font colon italic small caps bold 50 pixel Georgia. All right, so this is the font family which I am working with. This is the size, this is the font weight, this is font variant, this is font style.
Alright, so all the different attributes which we have used so far have been applied in a single line, and this one is the shorter way to style the text. So while working with CSS, you can use these various options in order to style your texts.
Now let's get started with the basic implementation of CSS. So here in this practical implementation we will see how we can start working with the basic CSS with the existing HTML document. So let's get started by implementing the CSS in the HTML document.
So for getting started with a very basic example of CSS, what I'm going to do is I will put the style tag in the head section. In HTML, we have already learned that the head section is basically meant for putting the title or for any resources. And here I'm going to use my style as a resource. So for that, what I'll do, I'll start the thing with the style tag. And within this style tag, I can also put an attribute which will tell the MIME type, since it will not be a basic HTML syntax. So in general way, what we do, we will put some MIME type text/CSS. Alright, now inside this style tag you can put the style attributes. Alright, so what I'll do, I'll put for the couple of tags here, let's say for the h1 tag. So for h1, what I want to do is I want to show it with the color blue, and I want to show it in the MS font. So for that I'll say font family : MS. So basically you can observe what I'm doing. H1 is the element for which I am putting this style. Now inside these delimiters, these curly braces, I will put all these style things what I want to put. And then inside this I will put the different attributes, such as color is the attribute, blue is the value. So I will separate the attribute and the value with a colon. And similarly, if you want to pass multiple attributes, you will pass semicolon as a separator. So you can just put semicolon again, and in case you want to put some more styles, you can continue by putting that. So this is all what I want to do for h1. Similarly, let's put one more, that is h2. And here I'll just put one style, that is I want the color should be green. Alright, so what happened when I'll come to the body and I'll simply put h1 tag with the text like welcome, and in h2 I'll put another text, easy learning. Alright, so let's come back to the browser, and when I'll refresh this, you can see the h1 tag is coming with two attributes, that is the color blue and the font is Comic Sans MS, while the h2 tag is simply coming in the green color with the default font and all the default attributes. So this is one of the way of putting the style. In our coming videos, I'll show you what are the different ways to style the HTML document, like whether it will be inline, the outside some file, or like embedding the style in this way. But this is all for now.
In this video of CSS, we'll discuss about giving these styles to the text. When I talk about text, that means if you want to make some underline under a particular text, or if you want to change the direction or the spacing between the letters or the words, and so much more things. So let's see a practical implementation where we will give the possible styles to the texts.
So for giving these styles to the text, here what I'm doing, I have taken several paragraph tags, and in each I'm just going through the different changes for the text. Like in the first paragraph, what I did, I used the color attribute of style sheet and I have passed any particular value. Like we have already seen, like we have different options of passing the color. Here I'm using the keywords and simply I pass red as a color. You can use RGB or any hexadecimal way to pass the color format. So this particular paragraph will be of red color. Now here when I say direction is right to left, that means it will be aligned to the right hand side. Similarly, when I talk about the letter spacing, that means the space between each letter of this paragraph will be of 5 pixels, while in the next one, when I'm passing word spacing, it will be 5 pixel, means the space will be between the words, not between the letters. And when I say text indent, that means this paragraph will not start from the absolute left position, but it will take the space of 1 centimeter from the left side. So let's save this particular page and come to the browser. And here, when I will refresh it, you can see all the things out here. Like this is the first paragraph with the red color. This is right to left, where we pass RTL, that is right to left. This is a paragraph with 5 pixel letter spacing. So you can see there's a big gap between the letters. While here, you can see there is some abnormal space. Like here, you can see there's less space between the words, but here it is more because I have passed 5 pixel space. And finally, this one is the indent, where I pass 1 centimeter indent from the left side. So as I said, it is having a gap of 1 centimeter from the left corner, and then the paragraph will begin. Alright, so here let's cover some more examples for the text. Like here you can see I have used the different options regarding the text, like text decoration. Alright, so in text decoration I have several things, like I can make it underline, line through, overline and blink. That line through means the line will be passing over the text, and overline means it will be up, means on the upside of the text, while it will show you the blinking text. So everywhere I'm using the text decoration attribute with the different possible values. So let's come to the browser now, and here you can see the underline, line through, overline and blinking text. As here you can see blinking is not functioning, so it depends on the different browser whether they support the text blinking or not. So for now, maybe this Chrome is not supporting the text blinking. Now let's go for the another attribute for the text, that is the text transform. And here I'm using a simple case, like when I'm writing a paragraph, I'm just using my default way of writing. But using these different values, I can actually make it in the different way, like capitalize, uppercase and lowercase. So let's save it and come to the browser. So here you can see in capitalize, what will happen? The first letter of each word will be in the caps, rest will be in the small. But here in the uppercase and lowercase, as the name says, the complete text will be either in the uppercase or in the lowercase. So this is how you can work with the text transform attribute for the text styling. And finally, we have the attribute called text shadow, where I have passed 3 values, that is 4 pixel and blue. That means the shadow will be 4 pixel right, 4 pixel down and will be of blue color. So when I'll save and will come here, you can see there is a blue shadow in the background which is moved away a bit, right? So it is 4 pixel right and 4 pixel down to the actual text. Alright, I can just show you one more example, like I made it 6 pixel, 4 pixel. So when I'll refresh, you can see it is moved bit more towards the right. Alright, so its first one is for the right position, second one is for the down position, and third one is the color of the shadow. Right, now if you want to make the shadow a bit blurred, you can pass some more pixel for the shadow. So here I will say it is 8px, that is 8 pixel. So I'll refresh and here you can see it is giving me more pleasant effect, right? So it is 8 pixel of the shadow. So these are all the things which you can do while working with the text in CSS.
Now in this particular video of CSS, we will talk about giving these styles to the links. When I say links, it is hyperlink. So as we know, using the anchor tag of HTML, we can create any text or image as a hyperlink. But here particularly we will talk about the text, where when I will make any text as a hyperlink, it would be of blue color with the underline. If I want to give some changes like in the color or whether I want to put the underline or not, I can do some styling with the links as well. So let's see a practical implementation where on the different events of a hyperlink, I can design a different color. I can put a different color or some different formatting as well. So let's start the practical implementation where I will treat the links in a different way. So let's start a practical now.
Alright, so for decorating the hyperlink, that is the anchor tag, what I have done, I have taken the style tag over the head section of HTML, and there I put first of all the anchor tag, means the named selector for the style. Alright, so here for all the anchor tag, what I have done, text decoration is none. As we know, by default the hyperlinks are having the underline, but by default I don't want underline should be there with any hyperlink, so I made it none. After that, for the different purposes, I am using the different colors. For example, anchor link means by default the color of the hyperlink will be red, means the text will be red by default as it comes blue, right? Visited means once you visit that particular link, then it will be grayish color. However, when you will put the mouse over it, then at that particular time it will be pink. When you will click, it will be green. Alright, so let's save it, and I'll put an anchor tag here in the body, that is the href. Like I want to go for just a sample text. Alright, so let's save it. Let's come to the browser, and here as you can see, when it is the text, if the hyperlink is being here, it is of red color. I put the mouse over it, it is becoming pink, right? Because I said hover, it's pink. Alright, when I will click, it is green, and here I reached. Now since this particular link is visited, now when I'll come back, you can see it is of grayish color, gray, pink, green, that's it. So since the particular page is already visited, it will not be in red color again. Alright, so this is how you can work with the basic of hyperlink. Now one more thing is, when I'm putting the mouse over it, I want the hyperlink should be there. So in hover, what I can do, I can add one more style, that is the text decoration is underline. So let's refresh, and now here you can see when I'm putting the mouse over it, it is being underlined. Alright, so these are the things which you can do with the anchor tag, that is with the hyperlink, while working with the CSS.
In this video of CSS, we will talk about layers. Layers, as the name says, will provide you some number of layers one over another. So basically it will give you the options, or it will give you a look and feel of the third coordinate, that is the Z index. Like for now we have two coordinates, that is horizontal is x-axis, vertical is y, and this one using the layers options you will get the Z index as well. That will give you a look and feel of one div over another div and so on. So let's see a practical implementation where we are going to implement the layers in CSS.
So as far as layers are concerned, here I have placed three different divs which will be behaving as a layer, and let's see what all attributes are there. So all three divs are of different color, like green, red and yellow, with the same dimensions, mean the same height and width, that is 300 width and 100 height, and all are having absolute positioning, which we have already discussed, and accordingly I have placed them in a different position, like top 0 pixel, left 120. Similarly, red is having top 40, left 80, and yellow is top 80 and left 40. So accordingly they will be placed. But since they are layer, so I have to tell like which layer will be above which particular one. So that particular thing will be told by the last attribute out here, that is the Z index, and it will actually tell you the sequence. That means Z index one means first of all it will be yellow. Then above yellow I will put red because its index is 2, and above red I will put green because its index is 3. So 3 will be at the top, red will be after green, and yellow is at the bottom. So let's save it, and here you can see the output. Alright, so green is at the top, red and then yellow. If you will make some changes in the sequence, let's say I want to put red at the top, so I will make it 3 and I will make green as 2. So when I will save, you will see that red is at the topmost position. Alright, so these are the things which you can do while working with the third layer, means the third index. So these are the things which you can do while working with the third axis, that is the Z axis, while working with layers in CSS.
In this video, we will discuss about passing the styles to the list. When we learned the list in HTML, we got the list like the definition list, unordered list or ordered list, which were either giving some bullet or a number figure just before the list. But if I want to give some different styles, I can go for the list options in CSS as well. Options like, if I don't want any bullet or number before any list item, Whenever you are adding a list item, it is coming one after another in a vertical manner. But what if I want to get them all in a horizontal way or in a thumbnail? So we can use some style options here in order to make our list more attractive and look different than a normal list. So let's start the practical where we'll try to manipulate the appearance of the list now.
Alright, so here in listings, what I have done in the beginning, like this is the default list pattern which we have learned in the HTML. So using UL, that is unordered list, or OL, that is ordered list, you can just start putting some list things. And here I'm using the nested list. So when you will be watching this in the browser, how it will come, like firstly it will be tea, coffee, soft drinks, and inside soft drinks you will get these options. So let's save it. And here you can see, like, first of all they are coming with disk, and inside that it is circle. Alright, and we know, like, using the attributes called type, you can pass the values like disk, circle, or square. Now you can do the same things using CSS also. So what we can do, using list style type, this attribute inside the style tag, you can pass which particular kind of bullet you want. So here you can see I have used all the three ones, like square, disk, and circle. So this is how also you can change the type of square in each of your list items. Rather than passing that in UL, I will pass the style type, list style type, here in the li tag. So let's see that. Like, first you can see this is square, disk, circle. So this is how you can create them. Similarly, for ordered list also, you can use the list style type with the different values like lower Roman, upper Roman, lower alpha, upper alpha, and numbers which are default. So you can just make these different values with the list style type. And here you can see that the lower Roman, upper Roman, lower alpha, upper alpha. Alright, so by default when you create a list, each element, or each item I should say, comes in a different line. But if you want to create the inline list like this, you can simply just do one thing, that is, here in each unordered list you can write float left. As soon as you will start writing float left in each list item, they will all come in the same line. The reason why I'm using width 10%, because I don't want any congestion with the list item. I want to give them proper width so that it will be easy for the user to get the elements. So width is nothing with the inline thing, it's just for the better appearance of the list items. And here float left for each list item will give you the list in single line. But if you don't want any bullet out there, like I don't want these things either horizontal or in vertical list, what you can do, right here in the list tag, that is either unordered or ordered list tag, you can simply say style list style none. Alright, so as soon as you say list style none, so none of the type list style type will appear before the list items. As here you can see there are elements available, but there is nothing like any alphabet or any bullet specified before them, because the list style is none. So these are the different implementations that you can make while working with CSS in list items.
Now in this video of CSS3, we will talk about the animations in it. So far, when we were doing the transformation, maybe 2D or 3D transformation, you were not getting that exact picture. Maybe it was something like if it is rotated, you may be not getting how it is getting rotated, but using the animation, you can get some animated things as well. For example, you may get a moving text using the animation, you may get some rotational boxes of div tag obviously using the animations. So here what we will do, we will just set a starting position and the finishing position, and this animation will take us between that particular path. Alright, so let's see a practical where we will put some basic animations using CSS3.
Alright, so now let's hear it for the animation. So let's start with a very basic example where, like all the previous videos, most of the previous videos which we were doing is I'm creating a box with the width 150, height 150, means it is a square shape, background color red. Alright, so it is like a normal box, but after that it starts with the animation thing. So what are the things out there? First thing is we have to put the name of animation, because there could be a number of divs, there could be number of element where you want to perform animation of different type. So for specifying each animation, you will give it a unique name. Like here, I have taken the name example. Now after example, it is a name. Like after that, it is about for how many duration you are preparing this animation. So for me, I'm taking it 4 seconds. Now in these 4 seconds, what all I want to do, so that we'll have to set by using the keyframes. And when you specify keyframes, you will have to tell also like which particular example, means which particular animation, because here I have given the name. So you will have to specify for which particular element you are going to perform this keyframes thing. So I'm doing it for the example. What I want to do, I will start the color transformation, like the background color, I will change it from red to yellow. Alright, so since you can see background color is already red, so I will start it from red, so both will get mixed, and then I will change the color to yellow in 4 seconds. Alright, so as you can see, it is for that particular div whose ID is my div. So in body, I only have one div with the ID my div. So let's save it, come to the browser and refresh it. So in the 4 seconds of time, this box will transform itself from red to yellow. As soon as the transformation is over, it will come back to its original one, because I have given a default background color to this div, that is red. Alright, so again I will refresh. In 4 seconds it will come from red to yellow, and once it is done, it will come back to its default one. So this was just about the keyframes thing, where I change the background color. Similarly, you can change its position also, whatever you want. So now in this second example, I'm going to add some more things. Here the animation name and duration will remain same, but I'm going to make some changes. Like in the previous one, it was starting from red and finishing with yellow. But if you want to take it from red to green, by passing some of the colors, you can do that as well. So what I'm doing here, I'm using percentage thing right here. So at 0% means in the very beginning, the background color of example, means for this particular animation, will start from red. Once the 25% of the time will take place, 25% means the 1 second. Alright, it is because it's total 4 seconds. So when the 25% of the time will pass, I will change it to yellow. Again, when 50% will be over, it will be blue, and then at the 100th percent, means when it is completed, it will turn into green. So I'm just making it from red to green by passing the colors like yellow and blue. So still I have that div, my div out here in the body. So let's save it, come to the browser, let's refresh it. So you can see, alright. So let's refresh it, starting from red, yellow, blue and green. Alright, so comparatively you can see yellow is staying for lesser period of time, because only from 0 to 25 it is being there, but from 50 to 100 it's blue. So the transformation between the blue and green is comparatively slower. Alright, so this is how it is happening, and once it is done, it is again coming back to red, which is the default color. So now, so far we were just making the changes in color. Let's see what all we can do. So let's make some changes in this particular code, so that we will be able to make the changes in the position as well. So as here, all the things are same, like the height, the width, the background color, the example, the name of the animation and the duration. Just one thing is more added, that is position. Because obviously I'm going to change the position, so I will have to tell like according to what I'm going to make the changes. So it is relative positioning. So whatever changes you will do, it will be relatively to the previous change. So at the 0th percent, means from the very beginning, it will be left 0, top 0, means it will be at the topmost position. Now after that, when it is 25% done, it is yellow in color, and it will move 200 pixel from left. Alright, means it will move towards right to 200 pixel. When it is 50% done, it is still 200 pixel left, but it will come 200 pixel from the top. That means it will move down to 200 pixel. When 70% will be done, it is 0%, means it is going towards left in the same height. And when 100% will be done, it will be to its original position. That is, it started from 0 0, it will be at 0 0. All right. So let's save it, come to the browser, make the changes. You see it is moving. All right. It is not getting repeatedly, but yes, it is moving. Like this is 0 0, now 0 200 200 200 200 0 and 0 0. All right. So that is about the left and the top values which I was reading out. Now if you want to make some delay in the animation, you can add animation delay. All right. So when I add animation delay 2 seconds, that means after 2 seconds the animation will start taking place. All right. So let's save it. Let's see how the changes are done. So after 2 seconds, you see it has started moving. All right. Let me refresh it. 1, 2, and now it started. All right. So this is about the delay. Now you see, like once it is done, it is stopped. If you want to make it repetitive, you can add one more option out here. Let's see what is that. And that is animation iteration count. Here I said it 3. All right. So animation iteration count is 3. So it will go on for 3 times. All right. So let's see. After 2 seconds, it will start. So this is the one cycle. This is the second cycle. Delay will be only for the first time. And this one is the third cycle. All right. Now it is done. So if you want, you can also write infinite or any particular number. So let's refresh after 2 seconds. All right. So it is 1, 2, 3. It's not going to stop obviously after 3 as well, and it will keep moving unless you make some changes or you do whatever. All right. Okay. Now there is something more called the direction. So animation direction. You can make it reverse also. All right. All right. So let's save the changes, come to the browser, and now after 2 seconds, it will start in the reversed direction. All right. You can also make it alternate. So once it will be in the correct direction, next time it will be reversed. So I'm changing in both the places. It is alternate. So first time it will go to the actual position, actual direction, and next time it will just reverse. All right. So it will be alternate. Once it is single, it means clockwise. Second time it is anti-clockwise. All right. So these are the things, like obviously when it comes to animation, you can do a lot of things out there. But yeah, this is some of the basics using which you can start planning what all you want while working with the animations.
Now in this video of CSS3, we are going to cover a very important and interesting concept of it, that is the 2D transformation. Basically, when I say 2D transformation, that means that is only the x-axis and the y-axis which will participate in all the transformation. So here we will use the methods like skew, rotate, translate, and some more functions are there which will help us out in making the transformation along with the x and the y-axis. So let's start a practical implementation and see what is all here for CSS3 regarding the 2D transformation.
Alright, so now in 2D graphics, what we are going to do, we will take a couple of divs. One will remain intact and same, while in second div we'll do the required changes. So let's see what is all there in the div. The height, width is set, background color is set, and border is set. So obviously it will look like a box, as you can see. Now after this, what I'm going to do is, for that particular div who's being decorated with the ID my div, I'm going to use the rotate method. So, and what we are going to do, we are going to perform a common thing in all, that is I'm going to rotate them with 20 degree. So you can see there are a couple of divs. This is one div which will just contain the styles from this class, while this div will take the styles from this class as well and from my div as well. So let's save the changes and come to the browser. Let's see what is all there. So you can see, like here, this one is rotated to the 20 degree, while this one is having the default layout. Now we can also do that in the reverse direction by putting the minus symbol, that is minus 20 degree now. So you can see now it is from this particular position, right? So depends like how you want to rotate, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you want to do clockwise, just pass any degree, or in anti-clockwise, just pass minus symbol along with that. Now, similarly, you do have one more method here called skew, in which I'm going to skew with x-axis or y-axis. So I'll do it with skew x 20 degree. That means it will be skewed using the x-axis only. So skew x and x. So now here you can see the x-axis is parallel still, means it is same, but here it is being skewed. All right, the whole thing is being skewed, including the text inside it. Similarly, you can skew it on the basis of y-axis. So I'm using skew y now. All right, so you can see the y-axis, that is the vertical ones, are the same, but the x-axis is changed to 20 degree. All right, and now using skew only, it will be taken from both the sides. All right, means skew x and y both will be there. All right, so these are the things which you can perform in 2D graphics. You can just transform it on the basis of different shapes and sizes, but when you will do the same things including the animation, you can see them moving in the same way. So we'll do the animation in our coming video, but this is all about the 2D graphics or 2D transformation in CSS3.
Now, in this video, we are going to cover the 3D transformation. As in the previous video, we saw like how the transformation took place along the x and the y axis. Here, when I talk about 3D, that means the z axis will also be in the picture. So whatever the transformation will take place using the method like skew, translate, rotate, that will go across the x, y and z axis as well. So let's see a practical implementation of performing the 3D transformation in CSS3.
So likewise, we use the rotate function in the 2D transformation. Here, I'm going to use the rotate x, rotate y or rotate z in the 3D. So depends in how many degree you want to rotate it. You will just pass the axis around which you want to do the rotation. Rest, again, I'm using a div, which is nothing but a box, pink color box with the height 200 pixel, with the height 100 pixel and width 200 pixel. And again, there is a special div in which I'm performing the rotation. So this is the normal div with straight box, and this is the my div in which all the rotation will take place. So let's save it, come to the browser and refresh. So you can see this is rotated to 150 degree using the x-axis. So the whole text is being rotated as well right after that. All right, it is being rotated along with the box. Now it is rotated using x-axis. You can do the same using the y-axis also. So rotate y. So now you can see the whole rotation is take place now according to this axis. Initially it was using the x, now it is taking the y. All right, so this is rotate y. It is still written x, but now as you know, like I'm using rotate y, so let's make it rotate y axis. All right, so this is y. All right, similarly you can do the, because it is 3D, there is z axis also, there is z axis, so you can use rotate z as well. So now the rotation will take place as per the z. So let's save it, come to the browser, and here you can see the third dimension of it. All right, so these are, as I said, like these are the things which I'm just using it in the transformation. If you will create a storyboard using the animation, you can see them, you can feel the animation and the transformation taking place. All right, so in our next video we will learn about the animation, but this is all about the 3D transformation using CSS3.
In this chapter of CSS, we will discuss about the colors. Colors are basically one of the very important aspects whenever we talk about the formatting or giving some attractive look to our web page. So we will learn how and what are the different ways of passing the color for a specific element of the HTML. So here we have 4 different ways of doing the same. First is passing the hexadecimal code, short hexadecimal code, RGB, absolute, and keywords. As we know, like whenever we talk about a color, all the colors are made up of 3 basic colors, that is red, green and blue. So this RGB combination here will help us out in forming the different colors which we can make. So hexadecimal, short hex code, and RGB absolute, that is the red, green, blue absolute, and the keywords. Keywords will help us out in writing the name of a specific color. So here is a short example. Like the first one is hex code, where we can see, like, I'll start with hash and then I will follow 6-digit value. All right, that will be from 0 to F anything. All right, like if I'll put 0 means red, green, blue, all are not participating in this thing, so it is going to be black. The first two is for the red. As you can see, when I put F in the first two, it is red, remaining are 0. Similarly, if red and blue are 0, means first two is for red, next two is for green, and last two is for blue. So here the mid two is for green, so it's going to give you green. Similarly, if you have F in the last and 0 for the remaining, it is going to be blue. Now let's come to the short hexadecimal, where in spite of passing 6-digit value, we'll pass 3 values only, but again followed by hash itself. So 000 means none is participating, that's black. Again, first for red, second for green, and third one is for blue. Then it is RGB absolute, where I will use this RGB function and will pass 3 different parameters. The first value, first number is for red, second is for blue, second is for green, and third is for blue. So again, this is the RGB. The value can vary from 0 to 255. So if I'll pass 255 in the first, that means it's going to be red. Second, it's for green. Third value is for blue. You can pass different values in all the 3 parameters to get the different colors available. Keywords. Keywords means you can write the name of the color. That is the simplest way, but it will restrict some of the color variants. Like for example, if you write red, it will give you absolute red, not any other variant which is somehow equal to red. Alright, so this is the keywords. If you want to make some more color combinations, you can use these things. So whenever you want to give the color to the text or to particular background, you can write one of these way of passing the color. So in our next video onwards, we will start working with the colors in a different manner. So far, when we were discussing about CSS, we covered the colors in that. So there we checked what are the different ways of passing a color with the name or using the hexadecimal code. Now here in CSS3 again we are discussing about the colors, but here we will check something different. Like here we will see how to manage the opacity of any particular color, like you want to make it 100% opaque or maybe somewhat transparent. So let's see what all new features are there regarding the colors in CSS3.
So as far as the colors are concerned with CSS3, here we have the same concept as we were having in the normal CSS. That is, we can use the RGB in order to create the various colors. Like here you can see the first parameter is again for red, then G, that is green, and then third one is for the blue. But you can also notice there is a fourth parameter out here which is newly added with RGBA, which is in CSS3. So as far as this alpha is concerned, it will tell you about the how transparent or how opaque you want there to be for a color. Alright, so let's save it for now and let's refresh here. So you can see that this is red, green and blue, but not to the extreme. There is some sort of lightness in the color. That's because of the transparency. If I will increase the value out here, minimum it will be 0, maximum it will be 1, and in between you can give you the decimal value. So as you can see, as I increase the value, it is darker in shade. Similarly, if I will give you 1 here, so it will be at its max, that is the proper red, green and blue. So let's save, and you can see this is the actual color. And as less value I'll give, like 0.1, 0.1 and 0.1. So this will be the lightest shade available in the RGB, like this. Alright, so this is about the transparency. Similarly, you can also use the opacity keyword out here in order to set the opacity. Like here you can see I'm doing the similar thing, but here I'm using another style. I'm using similar RGB method, not RGBA, and apart from that I'm using another keyword, that is opacity, and I'm passing the value 0.6. Alright, so when I'll refresh, you can see it is 0.6, and again, like in alpha we were passing 0.3, 0.3, I can do that as well in the opacity. So these are the things, this is how it will be displayed. Another way of passing the values here for the color we have the HSL, that is hue, saturation and lightness. So basically in the first parameter, that is hue, you can pass the values like 0, 120, 240, 360. You can pass any values in between also, but these are the things which will give you the absolute colors, like 0 and 360 will give you red, 120 will give you green, 240 will give you blue. So as here you can see in this current example, I'm using 120. So that means I'm going to set the green. After that, you can make the changes in the saturation and lightness, like how light you want that particular color. All right. So let's save it and see the output in the browser. So here you can see green, normal green and dark green, just because of the change in the lightness in the third parameter. So these are the new things. These are the new ways using the colors in the CSS3.
Now let's talk about cursors in CSS. Basically, cursor is nothing but a mouse pointer which you move while scrolling to a particular web page. By default, you get a mouse pointer which is of arrow shape and you move it along. But as per the different situation, you may come across a need like you want to change the mouse pointer as well. Maybe sometime when it's loading, you want the circular rotational mouse pointer. Sometime you are maybe looking for a finger pointer. So we are going to discuss about the different mouse pointers which are available here, and we can use that in the CSS. So let's start the practical now.
So now let's take a very simple example of the cursors, where in a single document itself I have put all the possible values of my mouse cursor. So first one is the auto, means the default one, like your mouse pointer. Now after that you have the plus symbol mouse pointer, that is the crosshair, the default one, pointer. If you want to move the window, that is the different icon, different cursor at that particular time. E-resize and E-resize means east side, northeast, northwest, depends on the side. If you are resizing a window from any of the side, so that means this is going to be the resize cursor. After that, the text, the cursor which you are seeing right now is the text. Weight, which will keep on rotating, depends on the different browser. And help, where it will carry a question mark with itself. So let's come to the browser and refresh, and here as soon as I'll put the mouse, this is the help, weight, text, resize, you can see it is getting changed every time. All right, so these are the different ways of passing the cursor. Move pointer, that is the pointed finger which we use generally for hyperlink, the default one, the crosshair and the auto. All right, so these are the different options which you can see while working with cursor, and using any particular option you can put it anytime on your DOM as per the requirement.
Now in this video we'll discuss about designing the borders using CSS. When I talk about borders, it is not just related to table, but you can pass the borders with the particular tags like paragraph, div and images as well. So whenever you pass a border to a paragraph or div, you can give a look of forming a box kind of image as well. So let's see a practical where we will try to create the different kind of borders using CSS along with the paragraph and the div. So let's start the practical now.
Now in this very example for the borders, what I have done, I have created two CSS classes for the paragraph tag with the name example1 and example2. In the first one, what I have done, I have passed the width of the border along with the type like solid, dotted, dashed. We can pass different variety of the borders. We will discuss what all possible values you can pass. Apart from that, I have passed the bottom color, top color, left and right color. As I just wanted to show you, like we can pass the different values for all the different kind of border, different sides of border, for top, bottom, left and right. So here I have shown you the values in hexadecimal format. You can also use the name of the color as you usually do. So this is what I have passed right here. But in the second example, means in the second class, I have just passed a single border color. So it depends. If you want to put the same color for all the sides, you will just say border color. Otherwise you will say border bottom color, top, left and right accordingly.
So here I have passed 2 paragraphs in the body section, and in each paragraph I have assigned the particular classes of CSS like example 1 and example 2. So let's save this and come to browser. And here you can see the different colors out there, like top one is red, green, and here in second one you can see the green border is there only. Alright, if you want you can also increase the width of the border so that you can see it more clearly. I'll make it 5 pixel, I'll save it, and again if I'll show you, you can observe the different colors, like it's somewhat black, red, green, and here it's blue color, while here it is just the green color. In another example, I am just trying to show you what all different varieties of border style you can pass. Like here I am keeping 4 pixel width common for all the borders, but the border style is getting changed every time. Like here it is none, means there will be no border. It's solid, dashed, double, groove, ridge, inset. Alright, and outset hidden. So let's save it and see how these different borders will look like. So here this one is none border, as I said, like since I passed none, so this border will not be visible, while this one is the solid as it was there in the previous example. This one is dashed so that you can see the dashed thing here. Double border, as you can see. Grooved means somewhat grayish like disabled thing. Ridge, inset, outset, you can see the shading here. In inset it's upward and here in downward. It is hidden. Hidden means the border is hidden for now, and here it is customized, like for all the different things. It is for top it is solid, for bottom it is dashed, here it is inset, and here it is double. Alright, so let's see here. Dashed, groove, double, and solid, all the 4 different borders are applied. Apart from that, you have also one more option, that is dotted. So I'll just change it to dotted just to show you. So here you can see this is the dotted border. So these are the different border styles which you can pass using the CSS class and with the attribute border style. And now here you can see that I'm making some changes in the border width which I have done earlier as well. But the new thing which I wanted to show you, like apart from the values here like 4 point or 4 pixel, you can also use the keywords like thin, medium, thick. Alright, so again the last one is miscellaneous, having lots of attribute altogether. Like the bottom width is 4 pixel, top width is 10 pixel, left is 2 pixel, and right one is 15 pixel, and it is of border solid. Alright, so let's refresh it, and here you can see the solid with 4 pixel, 4 point, thin, medium, thick as the keyword, and here borders with the different thickness all over around, like top, bottom, left, and right. So these are the things, these are some of the possible things which you can perform while working with CSS.
Now, in this video of CSS, we'll discuss about the padding. When I say padding, you must have heard about the padding in cell padding while learning the table tag in HTML, where padding means distance between the text and the border. So here also we are talking about the same padding where I can manipulate the space between the text to its border. That border distance may be from the top, from the left, from the bottom, as well as from the right. Depends all on our need. So let's see what all we can do while working with the padding options in CSS.
So here in the example of padding, if I'll just mention padding, that means that I'm taking the distance from the text and the border that will be taken from the left and top. But here I can take the distance from any of the side of the padding, in the padding, right? So here in this current example, I'm using padding bottom. So that means the distance of the text and the border will be taken from the bottom side. So let's save this, and if I'll come to the browser, here you can see that the distance is right here from the bottom. This one is the 15 pixel while this one is 5%. Similarly, if rather than padding bottom, I'll say padding top at both the places. So you can see the same distance is coming from the top, and very similarly you can do it for the left and right as well. So let's put it left. Alright, so here you can see the distance is being taken from that side, but since the percentage, and now you can see 5% from there. All right, I can also use padding right, but here as you can see the alignment is already left and the padding is already taken from the right, so it will not work. So first you can try by yourself by putting the alignment to the right, and then you can try padding right. So these are the things which you can take care while putting the padding, while putting any text inside the border. Now in this example you can clearly see that we have the padding different from all the different sides. Like here in the first paragraph I have used padding 15 pixel, that means it will be 15 pixel from all the four sides. But if I will specify like 10 pixel and space 2%, that means from top and bottom it's going to be 10 pixel and from left and right it's going to be 2%. Similarly, if I'll pass three different values, that means the top is going to take the first one, the bottom is going to take the third one, and the left and right will share the middle value. But here you can see we have the different value for all the four sides. So top is 10 pixel, the first one, then right one is 2 pixel, and after that the top and the right are taking, means the bottom and the left are taking the same values, that is 10 and 10. If you want you can just make the change to check the difference. So I am making the change to 30 pixel. So here the difference is getting increased. Alright, that means the third value is for the bottom and then this one is for the left one. So these are the different ways of passing the different values of padding for all the different sides inside the border.
In this video, we will talk about giving the position to the particular element using the CSS. Now, when we talk about positioning in CSS, we have provided with three different options of positioning, and those are absolute positioning, relative positioning, and fixed positioning. So as per your requirement, you can choose, like it's all about designing your web page where you want to put a particular element. According to that, you will plan like which particular position you should go for. So let's talk about absolute positioning. Absolute positioning is basically something, as the name says, it's absolute, means here you will have to pass two values, that is the x-axis and y-axis value. That is, x-axis means the horizontal one, which will be taken from the left hand side, and absolute positioning from the top, that is vertical, that is the y-axis. So on the basis of the coordinates which you will pass, the particular element will be posted to that location. So as it is mentioned, the element is positioned at the specific coordinates related to your screen top left corner, right? So the top left corner from my side will be taken from the coordinates. Two values, top and left, can be used along with the position property to move an HTML element. Like for example, if you will pass 0, 0 in the absolute position, it will go at the right top and the left hand side, and if you want to make some changes, you can just keep changing the value, that is the left and the top, to make it on a particular position. Now next thing is the relative positioning. Relative positioning is something where you will pass again the coordinates, but this time it will be relative to its original position. Like for example, inside a particular div you are putting some text, and inside that only, that's the relative position, you want to make some changes. So you can pass the relative positioning, means you will have to set the mode of the positioning, that is the relative, and then you will pass the numbers, like where exactly you want to put. And the last one is the fixed positioning, where you will pass any particular coordinate, and even after that, even if you're scrolling up and down the page, that particular element will remain at that position itself. Like that will be like something like always visible. All right, even if it's a big page you are scrolling up, but that particular element where you have used the fixed positioning is not going to change its position. So let's see a quick practical implementation of all the three available positioning options.
So as far as the positioning is concerned, here in this example I have taken a div in which I have used the position attribute with the value relative. So this one is the relative positioning with the left 80 pixel and top 2 pixel. Let's make it 20. Alright, so when I'll refresh, you can see, alright, that this is the relative positioning. When I talk about relative positioning, though the size of the text is like this much only, but it will occupy the complete width. But if I will make it to absolute, let me change here as well. Alright, so absolute will, first thing is that it will take the text space itself. It will not occupy the complete width which is available for this particular div. Now let's make it relative again. Alright, and after that, to understand it better, what I'll do, I will add one more div right after it. Alright, so what you can observe here, I have placed two divs with the same relative positioning and with the same left and top margin. Alright, so let's see how it is being reflected here. So you can observe like both are coming separately. Alright, let me just change the color as well. So you can see the second one is the relative, means the second div which I just added. Alright, so because I have passed the same left and top values in both the divs, still they are not crossing each other. Why? Because the second one is related to the first one. Relatively, it is adjusting its position. But if I will say it absolute, then it is not taking the reference or relevance of any other element of this particular DOM. It will just take the relativity of that particular element inside which this div is existing. So let me make it absolute, and when I'll refresh, you can see it is overlapping this one. Alright, because doesn't matter whether it is overlapping anything or not, when I say it's absolute, it will definitely go to that very point. Alright, and will be rendered over the DOM. So these are the things which you will have to be sure about, the relative and absolute positioning. The third one in the list is the fixed. So let's see that one also. So here I will make it fixed, and I will say this is fixed positioning. Alright, and to increase the page size, I will just add some BR tags. Alright, let's come and refresh. Let me change the position first of all. Absolute, I'll make it 0, 0. Alright, so this is at the very top, and fixed one is left 80, it's fine. Top, I'll make it 120, so it will come down. Alright, so this is fixed position. So when I will scroll, you can see this is still there. So this is the fixed positioning, the simplest one, without any confusion. It is going to be at the same position. So in case you want something like always visible type of content, you can put it inside the fixed positioning. So these are the three things which we have as far as the positioning is concerned, that is the absolute, relative and fixed with CSS.
In this particular video, we will see how we can change the dimensions of the border as per our requirement, so that we can make the boxes of different sizes, maybe smaller or larger. So let's have a practical implementation where we will see about the dimensions using the available CSS options.
So as far as the implementation of the dimension is concerned, here we are going to try some dimension of width 400 pixel and height 100 pixel. So here I'm just trying to show you how can you pass the height and width for any particular dimension. So let's save it, and here you can see like, okay, this is the dimension of height 100 pixel and width 400 pixel. As you can see, it is not just started from the corner because the padding, margin, everything is out there. Alright, so because of margin, it's started 10 pixel away. Now let's see how we can make some changes inside it. So basically we can also pass something like the minimum height, minimum width, or maximum height, maximum width. So in that particular context, here in this particular example, I'm passing maximum height. Means doesn't matter the content which you are putting inside, but the maximum height which this particular box will take will be of about 10 pixel. So obviously we have a lot of things here. We have some number of lines. After that, after some line breaks, we have an image. So probably all those things will not be a part of the maximum height 10 pixel, but still the line, the height of that particular box will remain as it is. So let's refresh and see. So here you can clearly see like this is the 10 pixel height, but still all the content is not inside that. So if you want to restrict in any particular circumstances, you can use the minimum height or maximum height. Similarly, I can do that for minimum height as well. So minimum it will be 10 pixel, but maximum it can take up to the content. All right, so now you can see the content is here, so the box size got changed. And mind it, the image is outside the paragraph obviously, so it will not, the box will not cover the image part. Similarly, let's say minimum height is 100 pixel, and let's remove some of the things inside. Like I will remove a couple of lines, I'll refresh, but even you see the content is less, but as I said, the minimum height is 100 pixel. It will take 100 pixel whether it is required or not. And very similarly, we have the concept for minimum width and maximum width as well. So let's say I'll say maximum width is 400 pixel. I'll just remove this minimum from here. I'll just take the default 100 pixel height. All right. Now, if I will put some shorter width, all right. So now maximum width is 40 pixel. The content is not able to adjust inside, but still you can see somehow it managed, because maximum width which you can pass here is 40 pixels. Similarly, if you can want, you can pass the minimum width as well. So minimum it's 40, but if content demands more, it can goes up to more. All right. So these are the various changes which you can make while creating a box with some dimensions for a specific content of your DOM.
Now, in this video of CSS3, we will see how to make the rounded corners from any border. So far, we were going through the strictly rectangular shaped borders, but now we can make the edges, means the corners of those particular rectangles, as rounded. If you want, you can go for the same radius for all the 4 corners, and if you want, you can make the different radius for all. So let's see what all options are available here to make any particular box with the rounded corners. So let's start the practical implementation now.
So with the reference of the rounded corners in CSS3, here in this implementation, I have added 3 elements inside the style element, and these are basically the ID selectors. So what I have done inside, like in the first R corners one, I have passed the border radius. This border radius is something which is new in CSS3 and which wasn't there in CSS, but still you can see the syntax is exactly the same. So that is the only new thing. Apart from that, the background which was already there, padding, width, height, everything was there also in the CSS. But here the border radius is the new attribute which I have passed. So basically what I'm doing here inside, I'll just pass the background color, which is somewhat greenish color would be, and nothing else. But if I'll come here, I'm also passing the border right here. All right. I'm not filling the background with any particular color, but there will be a 2 pixel background, 2 pixel border with solid, which we know, like solid, dotted, dashed, all the possible options, and with the same color. Padding, width, height, everything is same as of the previous one. And here in the last one, what I'm doing, I'm setting an image as the background of that rounded corner div. So for that, I have passed the URL as I used to do. As I said, like most of the things which I'm doing here are all similar to as of CSS, just the border radius is something new. So using these things, I have added the 3 elements inside styles. Now let's come to the body, and since I have used the ID selectors, I will take 3 different divs of paragraphs or whatever you want. You can just take that and can pass these as an ID. So let's save it and come to the browser. You can see all the 3 rounded corners. All right. So this is the background color. This is the 2 pixel border with the same color. And here I have passed the image. Since here I have used the repeat. All right, background repeat is repeat. So that's why after that it is getting repeated. So these are the things which I have applied using the rounded corners. Now let's see how we can pass the different radiuses for each corner. Like here you can see the curve which I have here is same with all the ones, but I can actually change the radius of each corner. So for that, here are the few modifications. Like I just passed single value in the border radius in the previous example, but now I am passing 4, 3 or 2 values. So let's see what is the difference. So as you can see, there are 4 values. So basically the 4 values will mean, that means different values for each corner. So let's save it and come to the browser again. Let's refresh, and here you can observe that 5 pixel. which is the smallest one, which belongs to this particular corner. Next is the 30. So here you can see 30 pixel. Then it comes to 50, this one, and then 15, this one. Alright, means starting from here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 radiuses are different. But if I'll go for only 3 values, then obviously one will be sharing with some other corner as well. So here you can observe like this and this. These two corners are same, which are having 50, the common value. 15 is 15, that's the first one. Alright, 50, second one, 30, the third one as of the top, and since there is no value for this one, so these opposite diagonal corners will share the value. That means 50 radius for both. And when there are only 2 values, so obviously 15, 15, and 50, 50. Alright, so these are the ways using which you can use the rounded corners feature, which is newly added in CSS3.
Now, in this particular video, we will see how to work with the visibility of any particular content in your web page. Maybe at the runtime you come across a situation where you want to make some particular text visible at runtime, or maybe you want to make it hidden at runtime. Along with that, you may also want to make it collapse or expanded. So let's see a practical implementation of how to work with the visibility of any particular element in a web page practically.
So as far as the visibility is concerned, here I have taken a couple of paragraphs in which the first paragraph tag is the normal one, means as the normal text it will be visible over the browser, while the another paragraph is decorated with the style where visibility is set to hidden, means this particular text will not be visible over the browser. So let's save the changes and come to the browser. And here you can see only the first paragraph with the text, this paragraph should be visible in normal way, is visible in browser, but the other one is not. So basically if you don't want to show anything, that doesn't matter, like you can just remove that from the text. It's no use of putting this visibility hidden as such. But if at the runtime you want to show or hide some of the content, then definitely it is going to help you. So what I'll do here, inside the head section, I will write a couple of code, like inside the style tag, I will use this hover, means in the hover event, when I will put the mouse pointer over the paragraph, at that particular time the visibility should be hidden. Alright, so let's remove this particular paragraph because it's of no use for now. So let's save it and come to the browser, refresh it now. So for now this particular text is visible, but as soon as I'll put the mouse over it, so you can see this paragraph is no more visible, and again you can see this particular paragraph is there. So this is how you can work with the visibility while working with the CSS.
As of now, we have seen how we can start making the borders and using dimensions, how can we change the size of the boxes. Now, in this particular video, we will see like what we can do if the content inside a box is way more bigger than the box size, and maybe for some restrictions, we cannot increase the size of a box to a great extent. So in those situations, we will add the scroll bars either vertical or horizontal or both as per our requirement. So let's see a practical implementation where we will see how to add the scroll bars along any box. So let's see the practical implementations now.
Alright, so let's continue with the implementation of scroll bars, and here what I'm going to do is, again, I will make some dimensions with some height and width as we have done earlier. And in case there is some overflow of the content, I would like to add the scroll bar. So let's see what all I'm going to do. I've just created a class called scroll with the display as of block, borders 1 pixel, solid red, padding is there, margin, top margin is there, width and height is there. And in case the content is getting overflown, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some scroll element, that is the scroll bar. And I'm using this scroll class right here in this div. You can put anywhere. Alright, here I'm putting it inside a div so that it will be giving you a box kind of look with this particular paragraph. And in case the size and the dimension of the div is not enough for this content, we will see the scroll bars as well.
So let's see how it is appearing in the browser. So you can see, like, as the content is big enough, the margin is all there, which I have set in the CSS class. You can see the scroll bars are now appeared on the left, on the right, and on the bottom of this div. So anytime when you want, you can simply use this overflow attribute inside the particular element where you want to get these scroll bars and pass the value scroll, so that you will get the horizontal and vertical scroll bars at a time.
In this video of CSS, we will talk about the selectors. Selectors are basically something which will help us out in selecting the particular element or the particular portion of your web page. So here we have four kinds of basic selectors. These are name selector, class selector, ID selector, and universal selector. The name selector is something where you will pass the name of the particular tag for which you want to apply the styles. For example, if I want to make some styles for the heading H1 or H2, I will use H2 as the name of the tag, and inside this I will put all these styles which I want to put for that particular tag. Now, second is the class selector, where I will put dot as a class selector, and that particular class of CSS will contain some list of styles. When on a document I want to apply that particular set of styles to a particular element, I will use the class attribute by passing the class name. So whatever styles I have passed in that particular class selector, that will all be applied on that particular segment. The next is ID selector. So ID selector is something where you will put these styles which is particularly for a single element, as it is ID selector and we cannot have the multiple ID with the same value in the same web page. So if for a particular div or something you want to put a style, you can use the ID selector. And universal selector is something where you will put the style for the complete DOM. So let's get started with the practical implementation and can see how these different selectors can be implemented.
So for starting the implementation of selectors, I will use the embedded style sheet just to make sure that you will see the styles and the tags on the same page, so it will be easier for you to understand. So now what I'll do, I'll start working with the name selector. As we have seen so far in the video that here I can pass any particular name of the element like H1, H2, P, paragraph, bold, B. Alright, so such things can be decorated by using the name selector, and we will use the name selector in the situation when you want that complete document should get the same styles for all the similar tags. For example, here in H1, if I'll say color to blue, then all the H1 of this particular tag will be converted to the blue font. Alright, similarly, if I'll say H2 to color green and text decoration to underline, so it will be reflected to all the H2 tags. Alright, like if I will copy and paste it again, so you will see all the H2 tags, whether I have written anything here or not, all will be decorated with the same styles. Similarly, you can pass the same styles to the multiple elements at the same time. For example, I have a couple of tags like for bold tag and for the italics tag. I want them to be decorated with the underline. So what I'll do, I'll just put the text decoration underline here, and you can see here B, I. That means for the bold as well as for the italics, I will decorate the text with the underline. So let's see how it will be looking like. So here I'll put a bold tag, like this is bold. I'll close the bold tag, I'll break the line, and again I'll put another I, that is italics. This is italics. Alright, so here you can see both are coming with the underlines, whether it's bold or italics. Now you can also use the nesting here by the time you want to work with any nested things. Like for example, for paragraph, inside a paragraph I will put a bold tag, and for bold I want to do something like what I want to do, I want to say background color to lime green. Alright, so what it will mean that if I will put any bold tag, that will not be decorated with this lime green. As here already I have a bold, let me refresh it, but here you can see there is no background. This background color lime green is only applicable for those bold tags who will be there inside a paragraph. So let's see, let's start a paragraph. This is a sample paragraph with a highlighted bold text. Alright, so now here what I'll do, I will start the bold tag here, I will finish it here. Alright, so inside this paragraph I can see there is a bold tag. Let me close the P tag also. Alright, so let's come here and refresh, and here you can see this is a sample paragraph with a highlighted bold text, and here you can see it is bold, it is underlined as well, because here I have designed the underline design for the bold text. Alright, if you don't want to use underline here, so again you can come for inline style and you can use the text decoration to none. Alright, so here you can see for this there is no more underline. Alright, so this is about the name selector. So you can use these names the way you want. Now the another way to use the thing inside a CSS is the class selector. The reason why there is a class selector concept, because there may be a situation where you want to put the similar styles for the different tags. For example, let me first remove this one. So what I'll do for the class selector, first of all I will use dot, that is a class. Alright, and here I'll set different style classes. Let's say the first style here I will use the color green and font Times New Roman. Similarly, let's put another style, style 2, another class. Alright, and here I will use again the same attributes with a different value, like it's red and font family to Corsiva. Alright, so now here I have not specified like for which particular tag I want to put these styles. If I'm saving it, you can see all the styles are gone away. Alright, so let's remove the text as well. I'll put some relevant text here. So what my requirement is, like here I'm putting an h2, that is a heading, like heading 1, and for this particular heading I want to put a paragraph. So this is a paragraph for heading 1. Similarly, I want to repeat the same thing for one more tag, that is h2 again, it's heading 2. This is the paragraph for heading 2. Alright, so now this is the updated text. Now what I want to do is, I want that this heading and its relevant paragraph should come in a similar manner, and this particular couple, like this heading and a paragraph, should come in a similar manner, but with the different styles which I have already defined here. So what can I do is, I will use the attribute class, and here I will pass the name of the class like style 1. Alright, so let's close it now. Alright, and I'll do the same thing. See, I'll use the same style for this paragraph as well. Similarly, in this particular situation, I will again use a class attribute with a different value, that is style 2, and I will use the same class, that is style 2, for this paragraph. So let's come here and refresh, and you can see that both of these class, like h1 and h2, here means heading 1 and heading 2, are being decorated with the different classes of style. Alright, now what I'll do is I'll enclose them all inside a div. Alright, I'll put it all inside a div. Let's close this. For now it will not be reflected, but now let's add one more selector here, that is the id selector, and for id selector I will use hash. Alright, so like my div is the ID selector. ID is actually an attribute in order to make a unique element in your HTML document. So what I'll do here, for making a div, I will use some of the attributes like height. Let's put height as 300 pixel, width as 500 pixel. All right, and we'll put a background color here with the background color yellow. All right, now here's how I have decorated this my div, but if I want to apply it here, what I'll do is I'll say id is equal to my div. So this ID selector will be applied only to that particular element in the document which is being decorated with the same ID. As here you can see, it's my div. It's just a unique feature to give it, but for this particular element I have designed this whole styles. So when I'll refresh here, you can see it's being enclosed inside a box with such things. If you want to use some padding things as well, you can do that. Let's say 20 pixel is the padding. So now this is how you can start. So these are the different selectors that we worked on, that is the name selector, ID selector and class selector. So that is all for this video.
Now we are going to discuss about the gradient color in this video. As in the previous video, we saw how to do the manipulations with the colors in terms of the opacity. Now here what we will do, as the name says it's gradient colors, means it's going to be gradient, means we will use multiple colors and one after another those colors will come in a series and will give a very beautiful look in the output. So let's see what all options are available with CSS3 to make the set of colors as the gradient color.
So as far as the implementation of gradient color is concerned, here I have taken an ID selector with the name grad1 and later I am applying this to a div. Now let's see what all changes I have made inside this ID selector. So the first is the height. I want 100 pixel height for this particular div. After that, you can see that there are number of background options to all. So pink and green. I have added a couple of colors out here. So let's see how the output will look like. And here you can see that this is the output, right? By default, it is coming from top to bottom. But if you want to change the direction, you can just add one more parameter, that is left, like from left to right. So I will add left in all the ones. All right. So now you can see starting from left, it is going towards right. So these are the couple of directions, like from top to down, from left to right. Similarly, you can give these styles for the diagonal gradient colors also. For that, you will have to tell a couple of directions, like left top, that is the starting position. All right. So let's see the browser output. Like here you can see red, blue. So left top, it is starting from red, and then diagonally it is changing its color, and at last it is blue in color. All right, since red and blue are the two different colors out here. So these are the things where I'm using the linear gradient, like it could be from top to down, from left to right, or from diagonal. Now let's see some available options for the radial, means if I want some circular in the gradient, let's see how those work. So for that, rather than linear keyword, here radial keyword will be used. I'm using height and width both for now. You can just continue with the height also, as we were doing earlier. And now here you can see the difference, like red, green and pink. All right, since there are three colors, you can pass the percentage, like how much width you want in each color. So pink 60%, green 15%, 5 for red. All right, so let's see the output now. And here you can see. All right, so this is how the radial gradient will work. Starting from the last, means this one is the inner one, then the outer and the outermost. All right, if you want, you can add more colors in the same method. You can also use the repetitive option for that. Like for example, if you have a couple of colors and you want them to keep repeating unless a particular time comes, you can do that as well. And how we can do that? Just by adding this repeating keyword. All right, so now the method is repeating radial gradient. Or so I'm just using a couple of colors, like 10% for yellow, 15% for green, and after that, because it's just covering the 25%, so after that it will keep repeating. All right, that's why I'm using repeating out here. All right, so let's see the output here. Now you can see, okay, so every time this green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow is keep repeating itself. So this is how you can work with the different options available with CSS3 regarding the gradient colors. Either it's for repeating, either it's for linear or radial.
In this video of CSS, we are going to discuss about the very important concept using which we can give some very attractive look to our web page, and that is the images. Images, as I said, can give you a very representational information along with some decoration as well. So proper formatting of image is one of the very important tasks of a web designer. So let's see a practical implementation where we will pass some different styles to the images. So let's start a practical implementation.
Alright, so now for putting the image, we know we will work with the img tag, and here we have the attribute called src where I will pass the URL of the image. Now to give some styles to this, I will use the style attribute as always, and then I will pass a couple of things. Like here I'm just making some changes in the border, though we have a lot of new things which are there in CSS3 which we'll cover in the upcoming series. Now here we see border, it's 3 pixel, means that's the width of the border. Dotted means there will be not a solid border, it will be dotted border of red color. So let's save it and come to browser. When I'll refresh, you can see there's logo followed by this red dotted 3 pixel width border. Now if you want to make it dashed, there are some more options. You can make it dashed like this, and if you want you can make it solid as well. Alright, now for this I will use 1 pixel solid green. Alright, so these are things which you can work while working with the images in CSS. As I said, we do have a lot of things while we will be working with CSS3 which we'll cover in later. So that is all about giving the styles to the images.
In this particular video, we'll discuss about the background. In background, basically, when I talk about, you can pass the different colors in the different ways which we have already learned in the previous video. Along with that, you can also pass the images in the different ways. Like sometimes you want to fix background, sometimes you want a movable background. As for your choice, you can pass the background image. So let's start practically what all we can do of designing a web background using CSS.
Now in order to set the background here, let's first put the background for a paragraph, and for doing that I'll put style attribute. I can do that here as well in the style, but for this I'm going inline. So style is equal to background color. So background color, whatever you want, like let's say I'll pass yellow. So that will basically change the background color to yellow. Since I specified the background only for this paragraph, so only this much portion is having a background yellow. But you can see like there is a sentence, and after that I have added 3 line breaks. That's why you are getting this much height. Alright, now if I want to do the same thing for the complete document, I could have done this thing, like I can just put this style attribute here in the body. Let's remove it from paragraph. Alright, so when I'll refresh it, you can see the complete document is now having a background yellow. Similarly, you can choose any color of your choice, and if you want you can also put the image as a background. For doing that, what I'll say is background image colon, here I'll have to pass the URL of the image, and inside this URL function, URL attribute here, I'll pass like is a folder in the same location where I have saved my web page, and inside that I have bg.jpg image. So you will pass the URL of the image, and when I'll refresh, you can see this is the image which I wanted to set in the background. The text is still the same. Now if you want, you can just make some amendments in the same image. Like if you want to repeat this particular background, by default it is getting repeated horizontally as well as vertically, since the size of the image is smaller than the screen size. So what I can do is I can just pass the semicolon, and I can apply the attribute like background repeat. So if you will say repeat, that is the default value, means there will be no change. But if you will say repeat X, only horizontal images will be repeated. As you can see here, vertically it's not getting repeated since X denotes the horizontal and Y for vertical. Now when you say repeat Y, so there is no image right here on the right hand side, but it is repeated vertically. And after that you can also say no repeat. That will just add this image once. You can also set the position of the background by passing the attribute background position to any particular value. So basically what it will do is, when here you refresh, it is taking the margin of 100 pixel from horizontal as well as from the vertical. By default it was getting started from this coordinate 0, 0, but now it is taking 100 pixel margin from the left and from the top. So let's come back to this one, and I will put some more line breaks here just to make my document much bigger. Alright, so let's save it, let's refresh it. Alright, let me just remove this first. Let me remove this background repeat as well. So this is my page, and here you can see the content going on. Alright, now it's just line break, I haven't put anything else. But now there is one more thing, like if I want to fix my background, for doing that I will pass the attribute background attachment to fixed. So let's save it, let's refresh it here, and now when I will scroll you can see there is only content floating. Alright, let me put some content as well so that you can feel that. I'll put it somewhere in the middle so that you can see it scrolling. Alright, and here you can see only the content is floating here, but there is no change in the background, it is still. Alright, so this is about the fixed background. So these are the things that you can put in your paragraph or in the background of your whole document, where you can put the colors or you can put the images in a different way.
In this video series, we are going to begin with the JavaScript. JavaScript is basically a scripting language which can be embedded in a HTML page. HTML page simply means any web page which is running on World Wide Web. Once you embed the JavaScript in the page, you can provide the various functionalities to that particular web page, such as you can put some validations, you can make the page even more interactive, you can put some animation kind of things. So that is all we can do using the JavaScript. So make sure before getting started with the JavaScript, you have the sufficient knowledge of HTML and CSS, as we will be working with the web page, and these two are the important things which you must know for creating the interactive web page. Now here, as I just said, it's a scripting language, but if I'll add something more, I will say it is a client-side scripting language. Client-side means whenever you will execute the JavaScript on a web page, the complete execution will happen on the client side only. There will be no server-side interaction while executing the JavaScript. That's why whenever we'll try to do some operations like putting the validations or doing the animation like things, everything will execute on the client side, which will also efficiently execute the page. Means the performance of the page will be more better. Now something more about JavaScript, let's see. It is untyped. Untyped means, if we know something about the programming languages, you may know about the thing called data types, which specifies the type of data we are going to process. But while working with JavaScript, you will observe like it is untyped, means it is not a type safe language. So whenever you will have to store something, you will just use a variant type, and that type can store any type of value. So we will have to take care like which type of data we are going to manipulate manually. Apart from that, it is multi-paradigm, means you can do various kinds of development, website development things related to JavaScript. Nowadays, JavaScript is also a backbone of so many different technologies like jQuery, AngularJS, Node.js, and so many JS like technology you may be hearing nowadays. It is functional, which will make the code even more modular. You can split the particular code in the different functions, and you can call them up on a particular event, as it is also event driven. So using JavaScript in such a way will make it wonderful, and so that we can use it even more creatively. It is interpreted by browser's JavaScript engine. Now, if the question comes like, when I write a simple HTML, how it runs? Every browser has a parser which reads the HTML tags and render the text accordingly. For example, if I use h1 tag, so the text written within the h1 would be shown as the h1, as a heading 1, the biggest heading. But if I say, what about JavaScript? Means if I am writing some logical code, some programming like code, how the browser will be able to execute that? So for that, as it is mentioned, every browser has the JavaScript engine. For example, for Chrome, it is V8 engine. For different browsers, it's different engine. So that JavaScript engine is actually able enough to execute the code which is written in the JavaScript. And make sure while doing this, your JavaScript must be enabled for that particular browser. Only then you will be able to see the execution of your JavaScript code. Now, let's move on to some more advantages of JavaScript, as it is less server interaction. Alright, means while executing, it will execute mostly on the client side, so it will be a lesser interaction with the server, and that will make the performance better. Alright, because if the code is here only and it is running on the client side, the page will not be posted back to the server again and again, and that will definitely enhance the performance of your web page. Richer interface. As in jQuery, we internally use some of the functions of JavaScript which makes the interface even more better. So you can say like it will give you a richer interface through animations or through some dynamic CSS kind of things, which will make it even more attractive, and the client will feel like good while working with the web pages. Increased interactivity, that's what it means. All right, when you will create a rich interface, a more interactive interface, it will be good for the client and it will keep on coming to you. So these are some key features of JavaScript. From our next video onwards, we will start with the implementation of it. In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the operators. As so far in the JavaScript implementation, we have seen like how can we define a variable and can set a value either at compilation time, that is while writing the code, or at runtime, that is by using the prompt box. But once the value is assigned, if I want to do some operations, such as I want to add a couple of numbers, or I want to compare a couple of numbers, whether which one is greater or smaller, I can do that all by using the operators. As operator is nothing but a symbol which tells the system that which particular task need to be performed in that particular data on which you're applying the operator. So the operator is the symbol, and the things on which the operator would be applied will be called the operand. For example, if there are a couple of variables where a and where b, and we are saying like a plus b, so plus is the operator and a and b are the operands on which the operator is being applied. In JavaScript, we have a vast list of the operators, and using individual operators we can perform the specific tasks. So on the basis of the operands, these operators can be classified as the unary operator, means a single operand operator; binary operator means the operator having two operands; or ternary operator means the operators having three operands. But functionally, we can classify into these categories, such as the assignment operator. We have already seen the assignment operator, that is the equals to symbol, where we have assigned the value to a particular variable, like where a is equal to 2. So this equals to variable or equals to operator will assign the value 2 to the variable a. Apart from that, we do have the arithmetic operator, comparison operator, logical operator, and again ternary operator. So let's have a look about these operators individually. As in arithmetic operators, you can see like plus, minus, multiplication, that is for asterisk, slash, forward slash for division, and a percentage symbol for the modulus. Means if you want to add two numbers, you want to subtract, you want to multiply, you divide two numbers. For example, you say 5 divided by 2. So what will happen? In the quotient it will be 2, in the remainder it will be 1. So the slash will take the quotient part, means the division operator will take the quotient part, while the modulo symbol will take the remainder part. So both are related to the division only. One is dealing with the quotient, another one is dealing with the remainder. But rather than this discussing here, let's see all of these things practically.
So for getting started with the arithmetic operators, I will take a couple of variables like num1, I'll assign some value such as 40, and num2, in which I will assign again some value like 10. Now, as we have already discussed about the arithmetic operators like plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulus, so let's do them very quickly. I'm not taking any variable, I'm just printing the results directly. You can actually take a variable and can assign some value into that if you want to reuse that value further. So what I do here is num1 plus num2, and here I'm just adding these two numbers. Very similarly, I'll do some more tasks like subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and finding the modulus. So before proceeding, let's break the line for each like this, and let's see the output now. So here 40 plus 10 is 50, 40 minus 10 is 30, 40 multiplied by 10 is 400. When you will divide 40 with 10, in quotient you will get 4, and in remainder it's 0. So like this, all the operators are working perfectly. Now let's do it in another ways. Like for example, if I say var result is equal to num1 plus num2, so the result will be assigned to the result variable, alright, and you can now print that particular value like this, and it will work like same. But if you want to do some shorthand operation like things, you can do that as well. But for that, let's take some other scenario. Like here, what I'm doing is I'm just incrementing the value of num1 to an extent. For example, num1 is equal to num1 plus 5. What it will do? It will simply add the 5 in the current value of num1, which is 40, and will change the current value, that is the new value, to 45. So now if I will print the value of num1, you will get 45. But for the same thing, I can actually write it like this also, that is plus equals to. That means the same and will give you exact same output like this. It's again giving you 45. Now let's talk about the operator precedence. So for that, what I'll do, I'll just take one more variable called result, and now what we'll do is 10 plus 5 into 20. So now when I will print the value of result, what it will do is, first of all, since the multiplication precedence is higher than the plus, so first of all 5 will get multiplied to the 20, which will result you 100, and then this 100 would be added to the 10, which will give you 110 in the output. But if you want to change the precedence, you can put them in the parentheses, so the precedence of parentheses is always higher. So now this 10 plus 5 would be done, that is the 15, and then that 15 would be multiplied to 20, which will give you 300 like this. Alright, so this is about the operator precedence. Now let's change the value of the variables of numeric types using the single operators or the unary operators, that is plus plus or minus minus. So here, as we have already discussed, like whenever you will use this plus plus operator, it will actually make the increment by 1. So now when I'll refresh, you can see it's 11, and they come into two varieties. This is the post increment, and if you'll put the plus plus before, it will be a pre-increment. Let's talk about the difference. Since here I have used plus plus num, that means it is pre-increment and the increment will be done before the value is getting assigned to the result. So before the assignment the increment would be done, that is num will become 11 and then that 11 will be assigned to result. So in this particular case both the values would be having 11. Let me break the line to get the clear output, right, like this. But in case if I'll go for the post increment, that will give you a different result. In this particular case, since it is the post increment, that means the assignment would be done before the increment. So by the time the value of num would be assigned to the result would be having 10, and after this assignment the value of num would be incrementing, so the num will have the 11. So when you will print the value of result, it will give you a 10, and while num will give you 11. Let's check it out. The same result which I was talking about. And very similarly you can do it for the minus operator as well, as the way of using the pre and post increment or decrement is going to be very same.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to cover arrays. In computer science, array is basically a data structure which allows us to store multiple values in a single variable. Yes, earlier we have read that it is not possible, but the way to do this thing is actually a bit different. Here, when we will define such variable, that variable will actually behave like a collection. And in that particular collection, there will be a number of memory blocks would be defined. How many memory blocks? That we will define while defining the arrays. That means when we will define the array, along with the definition, we will specify the number of blocks which we want, and after that we can start storing the value in each of those element blocks. And since, as you can see, it stores a fixed size sequential collection of elements, that means it is a fixed size, the size which you will specify by the time of creating the array. Later you will not be able to change that, and if you will try to store values more than that, your program may get terminated abnormally. So make sure while defining the array you are specifying a handsome amount of size which will not cause any overflowing. Now you have defined the number of elements of an array, and after that you can start storing the values into that. Whenever you want to access a specific element block from that list of array blocks, you have to pass the index, as whenever you create an array, the index of each memory series starts with a 0 to 1, 2, 3 and so on. For example, if I have defined an array of size 5, then the lower index will start with 0, then 1, 2, 3 and 4. So whenever I want to retrieve or assign the value, I have to pass the index like that. So here you can see there are a couple of syntaxes about writing the data, how we can start writing the data or elements in an array. So here what I have done, I have taken a var fruits. Fruits is the name of my array, is equal to new array. Alright, this new is a keyword to allocate a new and fresh memory space, and into that you can pass the elements like apple, orange, mango. So it is sequential storage. Here I have not specified the size. You can also do that, like you can say new array 5 and then later you can assign the values. Here I directly stored the value, so the first element will get stored in the index 0, then 1 and 2, and very similarly I have done here as well. So both are the valid syntaxes if I talk about JavaScript. Once you have defined the array, and after that if you want to retrieve the elements separately, alright, so what you can do, fruits like the name of the array, and then in the square brackets you can pass the index. As I said earlier, index will start with 0. So when you will say fruit 0, so it will give you apple, fruits 1 will give you orange, and fruits 2 will give you mango. So let's see practically now how we can start implementing the concept of arrays.
So now in this implementation of arrays, as you can see, first of all I have defined the array of length 5 and I have used new keyword for allocating a new and fresh space for this particular array. The size of the array is 5, that means it will create 5 separate element blocks in which you can put a specific value. And to point out those particular blocks, we can pass the index. So like here you can see the index is starting from the 0, then 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in this particular index you can assign any type of value. As JavaScript is not a type safe language, you can put any type of value, but when we talk about array, basically it is the collection. So we generally make a collection of similar type. Here I have put the value of same types, and now to read that particular array, what I can do is I have just written a loop which will start from the 0 till the less than 5, that means 4. And obviously it will run, this loop will run from 0 to 4, and at every time I am running this, I am reading the ith index, which is changing from 0 to 4. So, and every time I'm printing the value, I'm breaking the line as well. So let's see how this particular output will be looking like. So as expected, here the value from 10 to 50 is being printed. You can also do the inline initialization for the array, as here you can see right after the new array I have not passed the size, but I have used the curly braces to initialize all the values. So here I have passed 5 values. So array is always having a static memory allocation. Any particular number of values which will pass here, that will be the size of the array. For example, if I'll pass the 6th element, now the length of the array is 6. So let's execute it till the 5th index. If it is 6, length is 6, the last index would be 5. Alright, so let's refresh this one, and here you can see the output. So as we have discussed these particular syntaxes in the description also, like there are various ways of initializing an array, and anytime you want to read, you can simply pass the index after that and you can retrieve the value. When we have a number of elements all together, sorting and searching are the two very important tasks that we need to do. If we have a number of elements stored in an array and I want to sort them in a particular order, that is either ascending or descending order, I can go for the sorting concepts. And here I have written a very simple program of bubble sort in which I am sorting an array in ascending order of length 6. So here in the very first line you can see I have assigned some values in an array like 7, 2, 8, 1, 3, 4. It's random values I have put inside this, and now I want to sort it out. So before sorting, I have just printed the value right here like this before sort, and if, as you know, it's the 6th number of elements are there, so 0 to 5 this loop is running, and I'll print each and every value out there. Now as soon as I print it, I'll start doing the bubble sort. So for any successful bubble sort, I need to run a loop for n into n minus 1 times. So that is what I have done here. Like here it's n is the length of the array, that is 6. So this loop is running for the 6 times, inner loop is running for the 5 times, so overall it will be running at the 30 times. So that is the maximum number of cycles that we have to execute for a successful bubble sort. So let's see what I have done inside this particular loop. So here you can see like j is started from 0 and obviously it is less than 5. So when the first time this loop would be running, the value of j is 0 and j plus 1 is of course 1. So if the value of the earlier value is greater than the later value, for example j is 0 and 1, so if ARR 0 is greater than ARR 1, of course in this particular case 7 is greater than 2. So what I want is I'll have to swap these two values so that 2 will come before the 7. Alright, that will not make it a complete sort, but of course the two values will be sorted because it is the ascending order, so any smaller value have to come before the greater value. So that is what I have done inside this. Like these 3 lines are simply swapping the values of the 0th and 1th index. So the index or the value of 1th index will be here in the 0th index, and the 7 which is at 0th index will come to the 1st index. So similarly this loop will go for this 5 times, means 0 to 4 index would be covered, and of course as you can see here in the logic I am putting j plus 1. So the last index is 5. When j is 4, so what it will be saying, if ARR 4 is greater than ARR 5, that means these two values will be compared, and if required the swapping will take place, but only in one cycle the complete sorting will not be done. So To iterate this particular concept again and again, I have placed it inside this another loop, and it will make it show like in 30 cycles this loop will be sorted completely, and after that I have printed the loop again in the very same way I have done it earlier. So let's execute, and here you can see the output. Like initially it was like 7 2 8 1 3 4, and later it's 1 2 3 4 7 8. Alright, if you want to sort it to the descending order, you can simply replace the greater than symbol to the less than. Now the swapping will be done when the smaller value is before the larger value. So now you can see this whole array is being converted into the descending order sorted.
So far in the JavaScript, whichever code we have written having a linear execution, means from the line 1 to the last line it kept on executing. But if I want to execute few things on a particular condition only, I can go for the conditional statements, as these conditional statements will first compare the conditions using the variables and the operators which we have already covered, and if the condition is satisfied, then it will do the particular task. So here in JavaScript we have a couple of conditional statements such as the if else and switch, where if else will be used by in JavaScript code, like if, after then we can specify a condition, and if the condition is not satisfied we can pass the else statement. And secondly, we have a switch statement which will be doing a short circuiting like thing, means a direct execution as soon as the condition is matched. But in this video only we will just cover the introduction of it. In our next video onwards we will start with the implementation of if and switch statement separately. In this video of JavaScript we will begin with the variables. As in the programming and even in the scripting of JavaScript, variables are something which can store a single value at a time temporarily. Temporarily means the value can be changed later during the execution if required. As earlier we have already discussed in the features of JavaScript, like it is not a type safe language, so whenever you will be defining any variable, it will not be having any specific data type. So we will use a var, that is variant keyword, whenever we will go for any variable declaration, and after that we can assign any type of value. But since we want to be logical, we will not try to do so and will stick to a single data type of value. Now whenever you will start working with the variables, they would be having two scopes, either local or global, but practically we will do that as soon as we will start working with the functions. So if any variable is defined inside a function, that is a local variable, and if you define any variable out of the functions, it will be a global variable, means it can be accessed inside any functions you are making. But initially it is nothing like that, because we are not going to implement any functions. So let's see practically how can we start working with the variables in JavaScript.
So now in order to declare the variable, here we will use the var keyword, and after that you will name the identifier. So like here, if I want to store some name, I will name the variable, that is the name, and then if you want you can assign the value right here, or you can do it later. So if I want to assign the value, what I'll do, I'll put a double quotes, since here I want to store the string type of data. As we already discussed that JavaScript is not a type safe language, it is loosely typed language, so you don't have to specify a specific data type right here. Just by specifying the var keyword you can define a variable, and after that you can assign any type of value into it. Let's say here I assign a value. Similarly, if I want to assign some other things like age, which is a numeric value, I can do that as well. And similarly, you can assign any type of value like the same. For example, if you want to assign some decimal numbers also, you can do that in the very same way, like this. And similarly, whenever you want to print the data, you will use the same method, that is document.write, which we have already used, either document.write or document.writeln. So make sure that whenever you are printing the value of an identifier, you will not put them in the quotation, and you will keep them like this. But if you want to put anything before that, you can simply put it in double quotes like name and then a concatenation symbol, that is the plus. So let's save this one and see the output in the browser. So as here you can see, similarly if I want to do some more things, I can do that in a very simple way. If I will run this, you will see all the things in the same line like this. But if you want to break the line, as we know, we use the BR in the HTML. So I will simply concatenate that right after each message like this. And again in age. And if I'll do anything after salary, so that will again come in the next line. So now this is the output we were looking for. So similarly like this, you can start creating the variables and can assign the values as per your requirement.
Now let's have a look on the comparison operators. We have these 6 operators for comparing the value, such as the double equals to, single equals to is the assignment operator, while double equals to is the comparison operator, which compares whether two values are equal or not. If the values are equal, it will return a true, otherwise false, and very opposite is a not equals to operator. Greater than when you want to compare the greater value, lesser than when you want to compare the lesser value, and very similarly greater than equals to, less than equals to. It will compare the greater as well as the equality. So all these operators will compare two values and will always return a boolean, either true or false on the basis of the comparison made. So let's see practically how can we start implementation of these operators.
Now for implementing the comparison operator, what I have done, I have simply taken a variable and using the assignment operator I have assigned a value called 100. It's a fixed value, and now I have used all the comparison operator, that is double equals to for comparing the equality, not equals to, greater than equal to, less than equal to, greater than, and less than. So when I'll say that num1, which is currently 100, is equal to 10, so obviously it will give you a false. Though JavaScript is not a type safe language, but whenever you will compare a condition, it will return a boolean data, either true or false, and in this particular case it will give you a false. But in the next statement, when you will say that num1, which is 100, is not equal to 10, so obviously 100 is not equal to 10, in this particular case it will give you a true. As we know 100 is greater than 10, so when you will say num1 is greater than or equals to, so in this particular case if the value of num1 is either equals to or greater than 10, so the result will be true. Since it is greater, it is going to return you a true, but since 100 is not less than 10, so it will give you a false. Similarly, the same will happen in these cases, like 100 is greater than 10, so a true, and 100 is not lesser than 10, so it is a false. Basically the difference between the greater than and greater than equals to is like it will give you a false even though the num1 and 10 both are having the same value. That is, if I'll make it to 10 and 10 is greater than 10, will give you a false. But if I'll say 10 is greater than or equal to 10, so since it is equal to, it will give you a true. Let's check out the output now, since we should get the false true true, false true false. So let's refresh this, and false true true, false true false. The same output which we predicted is here.
Now let's get started with the for loop. As in the previous videos we have already discussed the basic functionality and the basic feature of the iteration statements, that is, it will keep on executing unless and until a given condition is true. So the same feature will be followed by the for loop as well. But what's the speciality? The speciality is for loop should be used when the number of iterations are known. For example, if I want to find the even numbers from 1 to 100, I know that I need to execute the loop from 1 to 100. In this particular case, I can go for this for loop. But whatever I'm saying here is just the ideal things. But if you know how to play with the loops, and that will come with the practice of course, you can replace any loop with any other loop anytime in your programming. Alright, so let's first get through with this for loop. As here you can see the syntax of it. Inside this for, you can see it is being classified into three different parts. That is, first is the initialization, second is the condition, and third one is the increment. So whenever you will begin this particular loop, as I said, the number of iterations should be known. So here I will initialize the value. Let's say I will initialize the variable I with 1. That is the initial thing. Condition means the finishing point, when you want your loop to be terminated. That condition will come here. So here I will write something like I is less than or equal to 100, means that is the condition. Unless and until the I value is less than or equal to 100, it will keep on executing. And increment, since I is 1 and it needs to go till 100, I need to keep on incrementing the value. I have to increase the value every time I am running this loop. So for that, it is increment. You can also take it in a reverse way, like I started with 100, I need to drag it till 0 or 1, and for that I will decrease the value. So it's all conditional as per your requirement, and inside this you will write the code. So this is how you can write a for loop. Now how it will execute. First of all, the initialization thing will execute. It will initialize a particular variable with any particular given value. Before entering to the body of the for loop, it will check the condition. If the condition is true, only then this code block will get executed. If the condition is false in the very first time, it will not execute at all. Alright, so the condition, if it is true, then the code block will execute, and then it's increment. Increment means after executing the complete body, it will again go to this particular section where the increment will be taking place. Now after increment, again before entering into the body, it will check the conditions. Alright, so this thing will keep on executing unless and until the condition is true, and as soon as it is false, the code will get terminated or the loop will get terminated. Alright, so let's execute this particular loop practically.
So in this implementation, you can see I have written a for loop in which there are 3 parts, as I discussed earlier. Here it's the initialization part, in which I am initializing the value of I with 1. After that, it's a condition, means I want this loop should keep on executing itself unless and until this condition is true. So unless and until the value of I is either lesser or equal to 10, I want this loop to be executed. And how the value of I will reach from 1 to 10, I'll have to make the incrementation, and so for that, here is the I++. This plus operator will be increasing the value of I every time with 1. So what will happen basically, at the very first time when the control will come in this loop, this will be initialized with 1, and then the value of I will be compared with this condition. If this condition is satisfied, only then the control will come inside the loop body, and these set of statements will get executed, where I am just printing the value of I along with the breaking the line. Once all the statement of this loop body will execute, then the control will go to the increment part and it will increase the value of I with 1, means the 1 will become 2, and again before entering the loop we will check the condition, and this process will keep on going unless and until there is a condition satisfaction. As soon as the condition will be false, this loop will get terminated. So let's see the output of this program. As here you can see, I is equal to 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So as I said in the description as well, like we will use this for loop when we know like the condition, the number of executions are known. So here I am starting it from 1, I am taking it till 10. So it's obviously sure like I want this loop to execute from 1 to 10. If I want to make the increment more than 1, like I++ is just an increment statement, you can use any increment statement what you want. So here what I'll do is I say I plus equals to 2. That means here I'm incrementing the value of I with 2. So now when I will refresh it, you see I is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on. Now let's take one more example, like I want all the even numbers from 1 to 100 and I want the sum of all those even numbers. So what I'll do is I starts with 1, I is executing till I is less than or equal to 100. I will just make an increment by 1 only, so I++. And now inside, since this is the statement, you can actually use any statement inside this. So I will inject the if statement inside, and I'll say I mod 2 is equal to 0. If the modulus of value of I with 2 will be 0, modulus means the remainder. So if you will divide any number with 2 and the remainder is 0, I will say that is the even number. So what I'll do is I'll simply put these statements inside the if statement. Alright, so I'll just pass the delimiters like that. Alright. Okay. So it will print all the even numbers, something like this. Like here you can see 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on. Now, if you want to add all those numbers, so for that what I'm doing is I'm just taking one more variable for summing them up, and I will initialize them all with 0. So what will happen here, whenever any prime number, any even number will be there, so I'll simply say sum is equal to sum plus I. That means whatever value is there in the I will add them up in the current value of sum, and then I will update the new value of sum as well. For example, sum is 0. Now if I is coming inside this for the first time, the value of I would be 2. So the current value of sum is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. So that 2 will be assigned to the sum. The value of sum also becomes 2. Now the next time when the control will come inside this condition, the value of I would be 4. So what will happen here? It will do current value of sum is 2 and I is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6, and now the value of sum will become 6. So likewise it will keep on executing till the value is of this I is 100. Now outside this loop, what I can do, I can simply print the value of sum with the message like total and then concatenate. And before executing, let's remove this line break also. So now let's see the output, and here you can see it's 2550. That's the sum of all the even numbers from 1 to 100. Similarly, we can also find the factorials like that. So let me take a number for that. For example, I will take it num is equal to parse int, and here I'll use the prompt box, enter a number like that. Alright, and now what I'll do, I'll just start the execution from 1 till that particular number. Alright, and in factorial what we have to do, we have to multiply the numbers. So I have to do the product. So I will start the product with 1, because if you will multiply with 0, every number will become a 0. So pass int prompt and then enter a number. So here I'm taking a number in this num. So what I'll do is I will start it from 1. You can also start with 2 also, because if you multiply anything with 1, it will remain the same. So it's all up to you. And now I'll just remove this condition, and inside this what I'll do, I'll say product is equal to product into num. Alright, I'll have to pass I here. Alright, because num is the maximum limit. So let's execute this, and here now you will get the correct answer. Like I entered 5 and it is coming 5 into 5 is 120. The factorial of 5 is 120. Like what it is doing, 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Similarly, if you will do it for 6, it's 720. Alright, so this is how you can plan of using this for loop, in which there will be a variable which will be taking a value from a starting point to the ending point, and every time when I'm using this for loop, I know the exact number of executions.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the iteration statements, normally called as loops. In the basic programming, it is a very obvious situation, like we come across a thing where we need to execute some set of statements continuously multiple times, probably with the different values. For example, if I want to find the even numbers from 1 to 100, what I need to do is I will have to write the code for checking the even or odd again and again. But rather than writing the same code again and again, I can put this particular code inside a loop which will provide various values, means different values from 1 to 100 continuously. And inside the loop, we will check the condition. If the number is even, we will print that. So such things can be done by the iteration statements, as this is a statement which allows the execution of a particular set of block code multiple times or several times. Whenever you will write a loop, you will have to pass a condition, so that until and unless that particular condition is true, the loop will keep on executing, and as soon as it is false, the loop will get terminated. For example, as I said, I want to find all the even numbers from 1 to 100. So it is a condition like the number or the value of I of whichever variable I am using, that should be less than or equal to 100. As soon as the value will exceed from the 100, the loop must get terminated. So this is what it's written here, keeps on executing until a given condition is true. So whenever you will start writing these control statements, whether it is the conditional statements or iteration statements, logically as per your requirement, you can make them nested to any level. Here is the basic idea how the iteration statements or loop get executed. So here, this is the control flow. There must be a condition. If the condition is true, then we will execute the conditional code and the control will again come to this condition. So unless and until this condition is returning true, this loop will keep on executing. As soon as the condition is false, it will get terminated. If there is any logical error, you may write an infinite loop which will not be able to come out of this iteration. Logically, you can classify the loops in three different types, that is for, while and do while, which we will be discussing in our later videos practically as well. But all these loops would be having the similar thing which we discussed right now, that it will allow the set of statements to get executed iteratively multiple times. So in our next video onwards, we'll start with the implementation of them. Now let's begin with the do while loop. Do while loop is actually having something different than any other loop we have learned. Do while loop basically checks the condition after the loop execution. That means at least the loop will get executed once, and after the one execution it will check the condition. If it is true, it will execute it again, otherwise it will get terminated. So as you can see here, it's do conditional code, and after the conditional code in the while you can add the condition, alright, and that must be terminated with the semicolon also, alright, that is mandatory. So here is the code block and then a condition. If false, it will get terminated. If true, it will keep on executing. So as it is written, do while loop is guaranteed to execute at least one time, alright. So because the reason is the condition is being checked after first execution. Basically, you can plan working with the do while loop whenever you want to execute the loop on the basis of user interaction. For example, if you are taking some user input, suppose I am writing a ATM code, a user at least have to enter the PIN number once. If it enters correct, I don't have to ask again. But if it is entering the incorrect PIN number, I will have to ask again. But at least the loop should be executing once. So such loops can be planned using the do while loop. And now let's see practically how can we write a basic code using do while.
So here it's an implementation of a do while loop. As I said earlier, like do while loop will be used when we want to execute a loop as per the user's interaction. So what I want here I'm taking a pin number from the user, and 3456 I have considered is the correct pin which I am seeking from the user. So unless and until he will enter this particular pin, I'll keep on asking the pin number. But if the number of attempts, the count of number of attempts is greater than 3, then I will not ask it again. Means maximum 3 attempts will be given to the user. If in either of those 3 attempts user entered the correct pin, I will stop asking him and I will welcome him with the welcome message. If all the 3 attempts he has entered is invalid, then I'll give a message account logged. So for doing that, what I have done here is the actual pin, a pin variable in which I'll ask the user input, and the counter. Now inside this do, as here you can see the syntax, after do it's the delimiters. Inside this you can put all the logical code in which I'm asking for the pin number, and every time I'm asking, I'm incrementing the counter by 1. Now here you can see, unless and until the pin is not same and the counter is less than 3, means the first time it is 0, then when the first time this loop will execute, the counter will become 1, then 2 and 3. So by the third implementation, here you can see this condition will be false, and here as you can see it's an AND operator. If any one of the condition is false, then this loop will be terminated. So let's see how this output will look like here. So like here I'm saying enter your pin, let's enter 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and last time also 1 2 3 4. All the 3 attempts I entered invalid, so I got a message account logged. If I will enter the correct in the third attempt, like let's say 3 4 5 6, it will give a message welcome user, and if in the first attempt only I give the message, it will say welcome user, it will not ask again. So this is how you can work with the do while loop, in which the first time the execution will be there for the show, and as per the user interaction on the first time, we will plan like whether we should go for this loop again or not. So this is the very basic implementation of do while loop.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to cover the cookies. As cookies is one of the very efficient way of maintaining the state on the client side. But before continuing with this state management thing, let's discuss what this is all about. Basically, when we work with any web application, for the server communication, we need to submit our page on the server side, and then it comes back after submitting the data. In short, we call this process is a post back. So for example, you have requested for a web form which came blank, and you entered some of the values in each text box of that form, and finally you can submit the value. Now when you submit that particular value, this HTTP protocol, which is a backbone of the client server communication in any web application, this HTTP protocol will take the HT, means hypertext, of the particular page, but the data which is associated with that web page which a user has entered will not be taken by this HTTP protocol. So in this round trip, means in this post back process, that data may get lost. So in order to not to do that, we have to go for the state management. So whenever you will go for any of the web development technology, in each technology you will find something related to this state management. And here in JavaScript, since we are working on the client side scripting, so here we will do the client side state management using the cookies. So whenever I talk about this cookie, that simply means I am going to create a text file on the client's machine, and the location of the text file may vary from browser to browser, as each browser has its specific path to store the data. Whenever a user revisits the web page, some of the data may get read from the cookie, as it is a text file. So even if you will shut down your PC, or you will sign out from that web application, or you will close the browser, that file may still be there. So in order to that, we can go for the cookies. Here we have two types of cookies, such as the session cookie or persistent cookie. Session cookie is something which doesn't have a lifetime, means as soon as you will start communicating with the web application, your cookie will be generated and will work only for that specific session. But you may also add a time span which will make it a persistent cookie, and as soon as the lifetime of that cookie is there, that cookie will still be there unless and until you will remove it manually by going at that location, or you may also remove the cookies from the browser itself. So let's find out practically how can we start implementing the cookies in JavaScript.
So here in the implementation of cookies, what I have done, I have taken a very simple form in which a single text box in which I am asking for the name and a button. on clicking on which I will create a cookie. So as you can see on the click event of this button, I'm calling a method called write cookie, and here is inside this head in script tag we have the write cookie method. Inside this, what we are doing is, if the text box value is blank, I'm just giving an alert and terminating this function, because I want that there must be some name in the text box before someone clicks on the button. Once a user will enter some value into the text box, and whatever the value it will enter, that will store in the cookie value. Alright, so here you can see like document means this complete page, dot my form, the name of this form, dot customer, customer is what? Customer is the name of this text box, dot value. Alright, so we are actually getting that particular value, and with a semicolon I will assign that particular value in this cookie value variable. I haven't defined that. You can do that as well, like where cookie value is equal to this. It will not make any difference. Now after that, what I'll do, I'll just take the document object, and here I will use the cookie property of it, and here what I'll do is I will write name is equal to, name is just a fixed literal string, and I'll concatenate that particular thing with this cookie value, means whatever we have got from the text box, and later I will simply print the value of that cookie. Alright, so once you will use this document.cookie, it will actually create a text file in the your system as per the browser, means next time when you will be back on this particular website, you can see that stored value. So let's execute this page. So here you can see there's a text box. If I will say click and enter some value, because the text box is blank, now I will enter like I'll say set value, and here you see setting cookies name. Alright, the value means whatever I have entered in the text box. So this is how you can start working with the cookies in the JavaScript.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to begin a very important concept called functions. As in the introduction, we have noticed like JavaScript is functional, and now we are going to implement that thing. So what is a function? Basically, whenever I'm talking about a function, it will contain a set of statements which perform a specific task. Specific task means, for example, I want to take the student list, want to take some marks, want to calculate the total percentage, want to find the grades. So I can do each individual thing in a separate task, so that whatever the code I will be writing will become modular. Let's take a real life example. When I'm going to an ATM to withdraw some cash, what happens is I will swipe my card. Maybe I'm just going to check my balance. So just checking balance is what? Is a method. Whenever I'll do that, it will be called, and the amount which I have in my account will be told. But when I'll go to withdraw some amount, even though internally it will find like how much amount I have internally in my account, so that if I will try to withdraw more than that available amount, it will not allow me to do. Alright, so that is what happens with the functions also. Whenever I want to write a logical program, I can split each and individual task in a separate function, so that whenever I want, I will call that particular function. Alright, if you have just defined the function and you are not calling it, it will not be executed. So make sure whenever you are writing a function, you will have to call it whenever you want to make it executed. Now, once you have written the function, you may call it once, you may call it twice, and or any time you want. In short, I can say it provides you reusability. It also makes your code modular. Modular means your code is now clear and individual function, and each function is doing a separate task. So you can easily split your overall functionality in the small modules. Now, let's again take the example of ATM. That ATM machine is having some of the functionality, but I have to swipe a card which tells from which account it has to do the processing. Means after swiping my card, if I withdraw some amount, the amount will be deducted from my account only, not from any others. So even if I have a predefined functionality, I may come across a situation like I want to pass some value, so that the functionality will be happening in that given value only. So whenever I want to pass a value, I can pass it through the parameters. So while defining the function, you will notice when I'll define that, I can pass some functions and parameters as well. So that whenever I want to supply some value from the calling environment means when I'm invoking that. So if I want to pass some specific value, I can do that. For example, if I'm defining a function which is adding two number 2 plus 4, so it will always give me 6, alright. But if I allow parameters should be there in the function, so what can I do? Every time when I call that function, I can pass a different value. So in this particular case, my function will be more effective and will be able to give me a better result. Now, if it's about the result, you may just print it and it will be end it all. But if you want to return that particular value to some other function, so you can do that as well using the return keyword. So let's see practically how can we start writing a basic function in JavaScript, and then we'll see how can we pass the parameters, and then we will see how can we return the value from the parameter.
Now in this implementation of functions, I have placed the script tag inside the head section. As you can see, so far I was putting the script tag in the body because anytime when this page would be loaded, the code inside the script tag will get executed. But rather than executing the code now, I will execute that in a particular event. So I'd be treating the JavaScript code as a resource which will be utilized whenever we require. So here there's a script tag with its function with I have used a keyword called function, and the name is say hello. So make sure whenever you are invoking this particular function, you will have to pass this say hello, or whatever name you are passing to the function, you'll have to pass the name in the very same case. Inside this you can do any logical task which you want. Now here I just printed a message using document.write, or you can go for the alert as well. Hello there, a very simple message. Now let's come to the body, and you see without using the script tag I can call this particular function. How? There's a button which I have for which I have used the input tag of HTML. Type is equal to button, value is equal to say hello, on click. This is nothing but the event on which I am invoking the function. In this particular example, I will only take care of the on click event. In our next video we will cover some more events that can be used for calling the various functions of JavaScript. Now let's execute this particular program, and here you can see as soon as I will click over this button, you will get the message hello there. Let's refresh it, again click, again I got the same message. So this is how you can write a very basic function and can start invoking it. But whenever I will click on this particular button, I will get the very same output. Now if I want, like rather than passing hello there, I want to pass a particular name. So I should be able enough to pass some value in this function execution, so that every time I am calling this function I can pass various values, and using those various values I will be getting the different values in the output. So for that I will use the parameters. So now I have made a minor changes in this program, and in the say hello function I have passed two parameters with the name and age. So whatever you will pass, name is age years old, means that is the message that will be printed. But every time when you will enter a new name and new age, the output will be changed. So in the UI, that is in the body section, I have created a couple of text boxes with the name T1 and T2 respectively. The first text box is to take the name, the placeholder is there, enter name, and for the T2 it's enter age. So whatever value you will pass, when I'll click the button it will say hello, and the couple of values will be passed here. So first of all I will pass T1 dot value right here, and then in the second parameter, since it's for the age, second parameter, alright, so it's for the T2 dot value. Make sure the sequence of passing and passing the parameters by the time you are defining it and by the time you are calling it should be same. So as here the first thing is the age, second thing is the first thing is the name, second thing is the age. So similarly I have passed the name first, then the age, because T1 is for the name and T2 is for the age. So let's execute this page now, as you can see, this is the placeholder. All right, so I'll enter any value inside it, like let's enter any age, say hello. Similarly, all right, similarly, if I'll enter some new value, like let's say Amit 32, say hello, Amit is 32 years old. All right, so this is how you can start passing the values inside the function body. Now let's say I want to terminate this particular function if no value is passed. So what can I do is I can simply write like if name is equal to blank, or means if any one of the text box is blank, age is equal to blank, then I want to terminate this particular function, and I have something called return keyword which is actually used to terminate the function. So here I'm not specifying any value. If you want, you can specify any value as well, like return false, return true, or if any particular processed value you want to return, you can return anything. But here I just want like this particular statement should only execute when both the text boxes are filled. So let's execute it now. If I'll say hello, you see nothing is going on. All right, but if I will comment these two lines and I'll refresh, you see blank is years old. All right, so this is not the valid output I want. So that's why I added this particular condition, like this particular document.write statement will be executed only when both the text boxes are properly filled up. If anyone is blank, then nothing is going to happen. If both are blank and I entered name but still age is not there, so that's why. Now it is completed and I got the message as well. So this is how you can start working with the functions in JavaScript and can pass the value through the argument and can get the value from the function using the return keyword.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the error handling. Error handling is basically a very important concept in any scripting or programming language, because once you write a code and if it gets compiled or interpreted successfully, that means it is fine and now it's good to execute. But during the execution, anytime it may cause something which may result the error at the runtime, and those runtime errors are called exceptions. At the runtime, only the exceptions can be handled. For example, if you have any syntax or logical errors, we will not be able to handle such things. But if it is any runtime error or exceptions, that can be handled. How? We will use some keywords for that, like try, catch, finally, and throw. Each of these keywords has a different significance. For example, all the suspected code which I may think like it may cause some exception. So I will put all that suspicious code inside this try block. So if in case that gives you an exception, that can be handled by the catch block. But if it doesn't raise any error exception, so this catch will not be functioning. If I want manually to raise any exception, I can go for the throw keyword for that. And similarly, I have a finally keyword which will call its particular statements even though the exceptions are not handled. So rather than discussing here, now we can go on the systems and can start implementing the exception handling.
So here in the exception handling, I have created a very simple program here. So here, as you can see in the header, I have a script tag and I have created a function now also with the name myfunc. Now inside this, I have taken a variable a in which I have assigned a number, any random number, let's say 100. And after that, I will start working the implementation. So basically, as I said, whatever the statement will feel like that maybe it may cause an exception, I will put all that particular code in the try block. If there is an exception, then that particular exception will be handled by the catch. And after that, you may add a finally block which will be executing for sure. So for example, if you're writing something like you are establishing a connection or maybe getting the data from some external machine, so in that particular case, there may be some situation like due to some network issues, your communication or your execution is not happening properly. So the exception will occur, and if that occurs, the catch block will be in action. So doesn't matter even if the exception is there or not, this finally block basically executes every time. So for example, if you are establishing a connection with some external resource, so if you want to close the connection, you can do that inside the finally block, because if the communication is successful, it's okay. At the end, I would like to close the connection. If the connection is unsuccessful, or maybe there's some problem while reading the data, even though I want to close the connection. So such things which you must do after at the end of the communication, or at the end of the any implementation, you'll have to put that inside the finally block. And now let's say what I have done here, since I just wanted to get an exception here, so what I did, I'm just converting this a to the uppercase. But as we see, it is a number, and number cannot be converted to the upper or lower case, so obviously I will get an exception. So let's execute this program first without the this exception line. So let's refresh it, and if I click here, so as per the program, it will say value of variable a is 100. When I'll say okay, you see there is one more alert in the catch, but that error one is not executed, and then finally the control comes inside here. So finally block will always execute. Alright, now let's remove this comment, save the program, and refresh the browser. So here you see the error message is there. Alright, because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to convert the case of a number which is not possible. So let's say okay, and here you see finally block will always execute. So it doesn't matter whether there is an exception or not, the try catch, the try block will execute for sure. If inside the try block any statement is causing an exception, then catch, and after catch finally block will execute. If there is no exception, then after catch directly finally block will execute. If you are writing a finally block, it will execute for sure, but it is never compulsory to add the finally block while working with the exception handling or error handling in JavaScript.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the events. Since JavaScript is scripting for a web application which is nothing but a GUI, so event-driven programming is very much related to the GUI applications. And now, by working with the events, we are actually going to perform that event-driven methodology. So here, for performing the events, we will use the HTML attributes of the event type. Like for example, if I'm taking a button and I want something should happen when I click on that button, so this is nothing but an event. So for that, I can go for on click. Similarly, if I want something should happen whenever my page gets loaded, so in the body tag, I can pass on load attribute. So on load is nothing but again an event. Similarly, different elements of your DOM may have the different set of events, and you can call the specific methods which we have already done on a particular event, so that that event will be more logical. So let's start implementing the method calls with the events now.
So now in this example, we'll cover the couple of more events like mouse over and mouse out. So basically what I have done is, in the body I have taken the image tag, in which I have actually not specified any particular image, and I have also not specified the size of this img tag. That means I'm taking the actual size of the image here. If you want, you can take the size as per your requirement. But apart from that, if I talk about the events, in the body I have called a method called onLoad. Means this particular event will be fired as soon as the page will be loaded on a particular browser. But at that particular time, a particular image will be set to this img tag on the load event. So as you can see here, like the name of this img tag is img1, so I'm accessing that particular image from this load method, like document.images img1, and src means I'm setting the source for this particular img tag img1 which is there in the body. There may be a number of img tags in the body, so I'm specifying the specific one. Now here I have a couple of images like logo green and logo red. So on the load, I want this logo green to be there in the image, but as soon as I will put the mouse over that image, so as you can see here on mouse over, I have called a method called mouse over, and there I am setting the logo red.png. That means that particular image will be swapped and the new image will be there as soon as you will be putting the mouse over the image. But when you will move the mouse out of the image, this mouse out event will be called and it will again set the logo green in that image. So let's see how the output is looking like. So this is what the logo green is here. When I'll put the mouse over it, you can see this is the logo red, and now if I'll put the mouse out of this image, again this is logo green. So you can see the effect of the event like mouse out and mouse over. So this is how you can try some more events. In the tutorial you will find the a list of events, so you can try any of the event on a particular control or the tag and you can do the relevant operation on that event.
Now let's get started with the while loop. Since it is also a loop, would be having all the common features like any other loop, but the question is, what is the difference? As in the for loop, we should know the number of iterations. It is not that particular in case of while loop. So basically we will use the while loop when a program is having its own condition and I want to execute a loop until that condition is true. For example, if I want to walk from my office to my home, I don't know how many steps exactly I need to take, but I will keep on walking unless and until I reach my destination, my home. So the similar situation will occur with the while loop also, where the exact number of execution will not be known, but we will execute this loop till a particular condition. For example, if I want to find the 100 prime numbers starting from 1, so I exactly don't know which is the 100th prime number. Alright, so in such situations I can go for the while loop. But as I said earlier in the previous video, if you are very comfortable with the loops, anytime you can replace one loop with the another. It is just the ideal statements I'm talking about. So here's the syntax, like a while keyword right after a condition which must be returning a boolean and then a conditional code. So this is how a very simple syntax. Alright, you can write this code and how it will execute. Let's see that. So first of all, the condition will be checked. If it is true, code block, and so it will keep on executing. As soon as the condition is false, the loop will get terminated. But it's something more than that. Let's see practically and do that.
Here in the implementation of while loop, I have written a program in which I am counting the digits of a number. So for the number, I am taking the user input using the prompt box, and whatever will come, I'll convert it to the integer using this parseInt method. For counting, I have taken a counter variable which is initialized with 0, and here it's a condition like while num is greater than 0. I'm not passing any number of iterations here in this program. So let's see how this program will work like here. So let's say in the user input I entered a 4-digit number like 5432, and obviously the counter is initialized with a 0. Now when this condition will be checked like 5432 is greater than 0, obviously it is greater than 0, so it will come inside, the control will come inside, and what it will do, it will divide the number with 10. So when you will divide the 5432 with 10, it will become 543.2. Alright, let's pass a comment. Alright, now so 543.2, and actually I don't want to take this decimal number. That's why what I have done, I have used the math.trunc method, which will truncate the number to the lower digit to the 0th decimal places. So it will become 543, and now the increment will be done in the counter. It will become 1 from 0. Now this loop will run again. So 543 is the current value of num, which is still greater than 0. Again it will come inside and will divide with 0, will truncate the decimal part, and then it will become 54. It will become 2. Next time when this condition will be checked, this is still greater than 0, control will come inside and it will become 5.4, which will truncate it by 5, and the counter is again working fine. Now the next time it will do this particular thing, 5 is divided by 10, so it will become 0.5, and again when it will be truncated, it will become a 0, and the counter will be incremented by 1 and it will become 4. Now when this condition will be checked, so num is having 0 now, so 0 is not greater than 0, so this loop will be terminated, and outside I am printing the value like digits is the value of count, and count is having 4 in this situation. Alright, so let's execute this program and see how the output is looking like. So here let's say I'm entering 6-digit number. Alright, so when I will execute it, it's showing 6. Alright, if I enter 4-digit number, it's saying 4. So this is all about the while loop. So as I said in the description also, we don't know how many times a loop is going to execute. This is a loop, and as per the requirement, it is changing the number of cycles. If I'm entering a 6-digit number, the same loop is running for 6 times. If I'll enter a 2-digit number or 1-digit number, it will execute it that number of time. So this is all about the syntax and the concept of while loop.
As we know, a website is nothing but a collection of interlinked web pages. So using hyperlink also, you can actually navigate from one page of a website to another. But if programmatically it is required, like after a particular operation you want to go to some other page, for example, as soon as you submitted your form, you want to go to another page which will give you confirmation like your data has been saved. So in any such scenarios, you can actually go for the page redirect in JavaScript, and here we have a method of Windows object called location. And inside this location method, you can actually pass a string parameter which will be a URL of a particular location where you want to go. So on a particular event like button click, as soon as this method will get called, your page will be redirected to that particular location. So let's see practically how this window.location works and what are their different parameters and overloadings available.
So in this particular program, I'm simply changing the location of one page to the another page. So in this particular page, what I am doing is I have simply placed a button with the text redirect me, and when you will click, this will call the redirect function. And inside this redirect function, what I have done is I have simply called this window.location property. It will simply change the location of your page, and whatever page you have specified will be shown to the user. So when I'll execute this, you can see I can also do that on a particular timeout basis. As you may have seen, like when you get a particular page, you will be shown some ads, and after that particular time, after some particular time, like maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, the actual site is there, means it will automatically redirect you to the actual website after that advertisement. So I can do that as well. So for that, I don't need this button. I'll remove this text, or I'll write something like you will be redirected in 5 seconds. Alright, and what I'll do is I'll call this function on the load method, like on load. I'll not call it directly, I'll call the timeout function, which will actually do the trick. Basically this timeout function will call this redirect function, redirect. Alright, and let's put them in single quotations as I already have a double quotes. Alright, and now I'll do that after 5000 milliseconds. So this particular redirect function will be called on the load after 5000 milliseconds, because as soon as the body will get loaded, it will call this timeout function, and this timeout will give a callback to this redirect function after 5 seconds. So let's refresh the page. So this is the message which I have passed here. Alright, so it's not there. Let me check the code. Alright, actually there is some set timeout function is there rather than this timeout. There is a set timeout function which will do that particular task which I was just talking about. Now I'll call this set timeout, and let's refresh this page again. So maybe after 5 seconds I'll be redirected, and yes, as you can see, now I'm here in this website again. So this is how you can implement the page redirection while using the JavaScript.
Now we are going to cover few more keywords and statements which may control the execution of a loop. So far we have covered the for, while and do while loop, and in all these three loops we have seen like there is a condition, and as soon as the condition is false we terminate the loop. But if apart from that you want to do some manipulations in the execution of a loop, you can go for the loop control statements such as break and continue. You have already seen the usage of break keyword in the switch, where after each case and default we have applied this break keyword in order to terminate the switch statement. Very similarly, we will be using this break keyword to terminate the loops as well, as this is the condition. When this condition is false, the loop will get terminated. But apart from that, if any time during the execution of the loop, if there is a break statement that get executed, it will also terminate the execution of a loop, whether the condition is still true or false. Maybe the break would be having its own condition that you can pass inside the loop. So this break either will terminate the switch statement, which we have already seen, and it can also terminate the loops, now which we'll see in this execution. But before that, let's talk about continue as well, as break terminates the execution of a loop, while continue only skips a particular cycle. Means this is the loop which is getting continuously executed, but meanwhile if there is any continue statement is there, it will skip the execution of all the conditional code of that loop. So let's see practically how can we implement the break and continue statements.
So in this program I have written a for loop which is starting from 1 and will run till 10. So if I'll execute this particular loop, obviously I'll get the numbers printed from 1 to 10. So let's check it out first. So here in the browser I'll open this particular file and you can see, alright, 1 to 10. Let me do the line break as well along with that. So br along with this. Alright, let's refresh. Alright, so this is my desired output. But if I will introduce any loop control statement in that, so obviously the output will be differ. So let's execute that, and here I'll pass a condition like if I is equal to 5, then I'll say break. Alright, so here as I discussed what this break statement will do, it will terminate the loop. So when I will become 5, the loop will be terminated and obviously the execution will be stopped out there itself. So if I'll execute, you see, even though I have written the loop from 1 to 10, but since I have introduced the break statement when I was equal to 5, this particular output is looking like this. Means it will just running for 4 times, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is about the break, and the similar thing it was doing at the time we introduced this break statement in this switch, where when any of the case was satisfied, the execution was terminated because of this break statement, and none of the case was checked inside that switch again. But if apart from this break I'll introduce a continue statement, so what this will do, it will just skip the cycle. Means I am running this loop from 1 to 10. So if I'll say I is equal to 5, then continue, so that means this loop, means this particular statement will be skipped when I was equal to 5. So this is how the output will look like. So as you can see, 1 2 3 4 6 7 8 9 10, 5 got skipped. Similarly, if you will add multiple conditions out here like I is equal to 7, so 7 is also skipped. So this is how you can use the break and continue statement in order to control the execution of any loops that we have covered, that is for, while and do while.
Now let's talk about the logical operators. Suppose you have multiple conditions to compare and you want to merge them up. So here we have two binary logical operators such as the and or. If you have two conditions and you want to check like both conditions must be satisfied, only then I want to do some operation. For example, if I'm doing the login thing, so I want the username and password both must be same in order to do the login. So for that I will go for the AND operator. But if you are okay with any of the condition should be satisfied, then you can go for the OR operator. But if you want to just reverse the condition, that is if you want to make true to false and false to true, we can go for the logical NOT operator, which is a unary logical operator. So let's see practically how can we start working with the logical operators now.
Now here in this video, along with the logical operators, we are also implementing the ternary operator. So first of all, let's have a look in the ternary operator. So what I have done here, this question mark and this colon both are comprising the ternary operator. Ternary operator, which means the operator having three operands. So the first operand is the complete condition, which will return you a Boolean value that is either true or false. If the result is true, then the second operand, or if the result is false, then the third operand is returned. So basically in this particular operator, the first operator is evaluated, the first operand is evaluated, and according to that the second or third operand will be returned to this particular variable. So what I'm doing here, I have taken a couple of variables for you, taking the user ID and password, and I have used the prompt box for that. So as soon as user will enter, I will check like whether user ID and password, if both the conditions are true. So as per the AND operator, it will return you a true when both of the conditions are true. So as whenever we do the login, the username and password both must match in order to get a successful login result. So if both are correct, so this AND operator will return you the true, and in that case I will assign welcome in the message. And similarly, if any of these will be incorrect, so this AND operator will return you a false, resulting to which the invalid user string will be assigned to the message variable. So let's run it and see the output. So now it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything incorrect, as you were saying earlier as well, so it will say invalid user. So that's what I discussed, like when each of the condition is false, then it will return you a false. Now what if I want to go for the OR operator? So let's change the program to a bit. So in this program, what I have done is I'm taking a username in this program using the prompt box, and after that I'm comparing, means when you use the OR operator, obviously this single variable cannot have both the values at a time. So surely only one condition is going to return a true while other will return a false, or maybe both conditions will be false. But even if a single condition is returning you a true, this OR operator will just return you that true, and accordingly I will be getting welcome or invalid user. So let's save it and run it. So now what I'll do, I'll enter, it's saying welcome, again I'll refresh, it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything apart from that, you see it's invalid user. Alright, so this is what I can do using this OR operator. But if I'll talk about the NOT operator, it is a simple unary operator, like I assigned this NOT operator right here. So it is going to behave just reverse. So let's see how it's going to behave now. So now when I'll enter, it will say invalid. Apart from that, if I'll enter anything, it's going to say welcome. That's what I said. This NOT operator will simply return the true to false and false to true. It will simply reverse the result of the condition.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the switch statement. As in the previous video, we noticed if we are passing multiple conditions using if statement, each condition is being checked one by one only if the previous conditions were false. But if I'll talk about the switch statement, here the things are quite different, as initially we will pass any expression or a variable, and that will be having that will return a particular type of value, and on the basis of that value type I will add the multiple cases. Whichever is the appropriate case is there in the switch statement, that particular case statement will get executed. As here you can see, it is not coming one by one, it will directly come onto that respective case. But if none of the case is satisfying the switch, then the control will come to the default block. So let's see practically how can we start writing this switch statement.
So in this particular program, what I'm doing is I'm taking a single character from the user and I'm comparing whether that is a vowel or a consonant. So for doing that, first of all, I'm taking a user input using the prompt box, and we'll make sure like whenever we'll enter something, it will just be a single character, and I'm storing that in a variable called ch. So after taking the value, I'm passing the ch in this switch argument, so that whenever the switch statement will be executing, only the value of this particular expression or variable will be compared. Apart from this switch ch, we can also pass an expression, maybe using any operators. But here I'm just passing the single value, but it must be evaluating a value. So here what you can see is I'm just checking it with the case keyword. So I'm checking whether the value inside the switch is A or E or I or O or U. So whichever value would be there in this switch variable, the ch variable, that particular statement will get printed. For example, if I'll enter O, so O is vowel will be printed. But as I said earlier, whenever this execution will take place, the line by line case checking will not be happening, but the control will directly fall into this case, particular case, which is getting satisfied with the value stored by this variable. So let's execute first and see how this output is running like. So yep, here is the file. So here I'm entering a value, let's say O, and here you can see the message O is vowel. If I'll enter anything apart from A, E, I, O, U, you can see the message special character or consonant. But where does it comes from? It is coming basically from the default. Like in the if statement, when all the conditions are false, at last the else statement gets executed. Similarly, in the switch, when all the cases are false, finally the control will fall in the default statement. As I said, it is not getting executed line by line, so most of the time we put the default in the last, but basically syntactically you can put it in any particular position. So let's execute it again. I'll refresh it and I'll pass U. So again you see U is vowel is printed. So basically what's the reason? If I have placed default before the case U, then if it is executing line by line, then this default statement must be printed. But as I said, like whichever case is particularly getting satisfied with this particular value evaluated from this variable or expression, that case will be printed from here. So that is why we can see the output is still fine even if we have placed the default before the case. If you have multiple cases on which you want to execute the same set of statement, you can shorthandly write the switch statement like this. As here you can see I have placed all the cases like case A, E, I, O and U all together, and after that here I am giving a common definition, and still I am using this break keyword in order to terminate the particular case. So here this ch means whichever value you will be entering. If it is a part in this list like A, E, I, O, U, then that particular value will be printed along with is vowel message. So when I'll re-execute this, you can see still it is working fine, like E is vowel, then if I'll enter I is vowel. Alright, and if I'll enter anything else, then special character or consonant. So this is how we have written this program of switch, and this is how it executes. So you can basically use this switch statement whenever you are making some menu like options in your program or in any interface where you want to put the multiple matchings using the case.
In this video, we are going to cover the JavaScript objects. Basically, JavaScript here, which we are covering, is an object-based language. So what we can do, we can create an object and can fix some properties into it. Later, as per the requirement, I will be able to retrieve that particular object and the specific property which I want to read. So in this practical, we are going to create a such object, and to retrieve, we will also cover one more for in loop of JavaScript. So let's see now it practically.
Now here you can see I have created the first JavaScript object with the name tutorial, and inside this, rather than passing the single value, I have created multiple properties and have assigned the value in each property. Like I have created a variable or an object with the name tutorial, and inside that tutorial object I have placed three properties, that is topic, trainer and mode. So you can see each three property is having a value. So you can create a separate objects like that with the different properties and can assign the value. You can also create the array of such objects and can put in a separate file which we call the JSON file, that is JavaScript Object Notation. And you can use very different ways to read that particular JSON file which we have nowadays. Like you can read it from the Node application, from the Angular application. There are a number of ways, but here we are not going up to that level. You can check the different tutorials for that. But here, particularly in this one, I have created just a single object and can read the different properties out of these objects. So as here you can see, topic is tutorial, means the object name, and by separating a dot with the dot you can pass the property name like tutorial.topic, tutorial.trainer, tutorial.mode. So make sure it's case sensitive, so you are using in the very same case. So if you will see the output, you can see like topic, trainer, and the mode is online. So this is what when you want to read a particular object property by property. But we do have a loop here using which I can go for this object reading, and that is a for in loop. So if I'll see the syntax of the for in loop, you can see here, let me align this first. All right, okay. So here what I have done is I have taken the text property here, text variable here, which is initialized with a blank. All right, and then to point the specific property of this particular object, I have used this X. You can take anything. All right, so now inside this for in, what is there? For X in tutorial, this is the main object, and X will be pointing the specific property inside this object. So you can see like tutorial X. So X means it will start from the 0, then it will point out the first property, second property, and third property, and as many as there. So I'll concatenate that all the values, only the values. No, I'm not specifying the property name here, but just the value of each property will be concatenated to this string called txt, and I'm separating all the values with the comma. So if I'll refresh this page, you can see JavaScript, that is the first property value, the second property value, and then online the third property value. So it's all up to you, like how you want to read this specific object, either property wise like this, or you can do all the reading and can store all the values inside this string variable. And as in the string methods, we have already done the split function. So later if you want to assign all these different values in the array, you can do that using this split method, and each value will be stored in the array. So this is all about the JavaScript object.
Now in the conditional statements, let's talk about the if-else statement. As I already discussed in the previous video, it is used to pass some conditions, that is after the if keyword I can pass any condition using the logical or comparison operator, and if the condition is not satisfied, then we can go for the else. But else is optional, so you are not forced to add the else keyword right after the if. So this is how the execution will take place. Like when the code flow will be happening, there will be a condition carried by the if keyword. If the condition is true, then only we will execute the conditional code. If it is false, we will terminate that particular code, means that particular code will not get executed. You can also change the multiple conditions using the else if, means if the first condition is false, you can proceed with the second condition, and the second condition will with else if will only be compared when the first condition is false. So let's see practically how can we implement this else if and if statements all together.
So here we are implementing the if statement. What we are doing here is we will be taking the marks of any three subjects from a student, and after that I'll sum them up and will calculate the percentage. On the basis of the percentage, I will assign them a grade, like whether it's grade A, B, C or D. So what I'm doing here is using the prompt box, I'm taking all the three marks. Now whenever you will enter something in the prompt box, it will be treated as the string. So here, whenever you will use the plus operator for adding the things, it will actually be concatenated and you will not get the desired result. So in order to make them treated like the integer, what I have done is I have used the method called or function called parse int. So in this parse int, what it will do, it will convert the type to the integer. So now when I will add this when I will use this plus symbol, it will actually add them rather than concatenating. So once I get the total, I have applied a very simple formula for calculating the percentage, and here I am considering the maximum marks as 50. So whatever the percentage is there, I will print that, and after that, on the basis of that percentage, I will pass the conditions in order to get the grades. Now here you can see it is if, and right after this it's a parenthesis inside which I will pass a statement which will return a boolean value. So here I'm using this comparison operator, and we have already discussed about it, like whenever you will be using the comparison operator, it will return you a boolean. So if this particular condition is true, I will get an alert box with the thing grade A. Now if this condition is incorrect, so it actually depends what you have written after that. For example, if I don't have these line of codes, so if the percentage is not greater than 80, nothing is going to happen. If it is greater than or equal to 80, I will get a message grade A. But it's all depends on the situation and your requirement, like what and how you want to do in a condition. Means if this condition is incorrect and I don't want to do anything in the condition when the condition is incorrect, so I will leave the program like that. But if I want to do something if this condition is incorrect, or if I want to check some more conditions if this condition is false, then I can go for all these things. Like here you can see it is not a if but it is else if, means this condition will be checked only when the previous condition is false. If this is true, this will never be compared. Similarly, if this condition is returning true, then we will not go to all these statements. This condition will only be checked when this will return a false, and so on. And similarly, when all the conditions are false, only then the control will come in the else part. So this is a chaining thing, right? You can see whenever I'm using the else if, that means each and every condition is changed, and it will come, the control will come inside them only when the previous conditions are false. So for example, if I have entered something and the percentage is having 85, so 85 is greater than 80, 85 is greater than 60 also, 85 is greater than 40 also. But as I said, if this particular condition is true, the control will never come in these conditions. So doesn't matter whether they will return true or false, nothing is going to happen. So let's save the program and see the output in the browser. So let's refresh this. Here I'll enter the marks. So as I said, like I'm taking the marks out of 50. So I entered 45, 46, 47. They are pretty good marks. So obviously the percentage is good. That is 92. And here I'll get grade A. Similarly, if I'll enter some marks like 34, 32, 37. So the percentage is something 68. So it will get grade B. And similarly, if the marks are quite low, like 14, 24 and 12, so it's 33%, it's grade D. Alright, so on that particular basis, you can actually calculate the things and can pass the conditions using the if statement. Apart from that, you can use any operator which we have covered earlier, which are returning a boolean value. So this is a very basic implementation of if statement.
Now, here in this video, we are going to do some interactive things. Using some of the methods or timer-like concepts, we can actually make some animation-like things in your web page. And this will definitely not destroy the performance of the web page, as whatever functionalities we will make, it will all execute on the client side only. So there will not be any post-back things happening. So let's see practically how to do some basic level of animations in your web page.
So here inside the body, you can see like I have placed the img tag for putting the animation, and here I have 4 images in the same location, that is 1, 2, 3, 4.png. Alright, and the name of this img tag is img1, so that I can access it from the JavaScript code from this name. And I have called a couple of methods which I'll discuss later, but before that let's go to the JavaScript tag to see how I have placed the animation. As here you can see, in the very first line inside the script I have placed an array of images in which I have just put the name of the images, as I said, 1.png, 2.png, 3.png and 4.png. So one by one I want these images will be set in the img tag, and for pointing each particular element of this array I have taken the I means index variable which will point an individual element of this array. Now after that I have taken a reference so that I can control the timer and the slideshow which I am getting started. I'll discuss about this ref later. Now inside this function pick library, what I have done is document.images. Since you can have a number of img tags in your document, I am asking for the first one with the index 0. Either you can use this particular name also inside this square bracket. So just I wanted to check, like the src will be arri. Initially the value of I is 1. The index will begin with 0, but I want that the it should start with the 1. Why? Because by default I have placed the 1.png in the img tag. Alright, so as soon as you will load it, you will see this 1.png, but after a second it will be changed to 2.png. How? Because this will do the thing. It will set the image at the index 1 and then it will do the increment by 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3. If this increment will make it greater than 3, I will reset the value to 0. Alright, and now I will create another function called start. Inside this I have used the set interval method. Basically the set interval method will take a couple of arguments. The first one is the callback function. So here I have passed the name of this function with the name pick library, and it will set like this. Set interval function will keep on calling this pick library after each 1000 milliseconds. So after each 1000 milliseconds this method will be called again every time the increment will be there. That's why I have taken this particular variable I outside the scope, outside the function as a global variable. Alright, now it will start the things, and now to stop and one more thing, by the time I was setting the interval, I assigned the reference of this interval to the variable called ref, which I have defined already. Now in this stop, when I want to stop the slideshow of the images, I will just pass that reference itself, because there may be a number of intervals there in the single HTML page. So I need to specify like which particular interval I need to clear. That means when I'll say clear interval ref, it will stop calling this pick library after each 1000 milliseconds, that is 1 second. And when actually I'm stopping that, as soon as you will put the mouse over the image, it will stop it. Means you can easily see that particular image, but as soon as you will say mouse out, again that particular interval would be set. So you can do that. And one more thing, I want this slideshow to be there, to be started as soon as the page gets loaded. So I can also call this start function on the onload event. So what I'll do, I'll simply say start. Alright, so now let's come to the browser and see how the output is looking like. So here you can see the different color of logos are there. Alright, so some of them are 1.png, 2.png and all. As soon as I will put the mouse over this image, you see now the image is not getting changed. Alright, but as soon as I will move the mouse out of the image, again this transition will begin. So in the same way you can use the set interval function for the different purposes, like if you want to change the color of the font or of the background at a particular time, you can just set the logic like this and you can put some animations in the output on the client side.